Hi, everybody. Hello. Hey, Kurisu. And hi, Zeb. Oh, wait. Hang on 1 second. I'm back. There we go. Hi, everybody. How you doing? Hopefully you guys can hear me. I did also, I turned down the music from last time. Hopefully it's fine. I actually kind of want to adjust it just a little bit. But hopefully the volumes are set. I was listening to the VOD last time, and I did notice that the music was a little loud. I have no clue why that is. But okay, that's just addressing a couple things from last time. Sounds great to me? Okay, okay. Yeah, no, I was talking about last stream's VOD. This VOD seems okay, from what I can hear anyway. I have to turn everything up to max volume to hear you? Okay, let's do something about that. Okay, what about now? I've turned up the gain a bit. My mic is already at max, basically. So it should be just the gain of my mic that's the issue. How's my voice now? Oh, very loud? Very loud? Okay, okay. So maybe it's just whatever Kurisu's listening to. I'm sorry if I'm too loud. I'll adjust it a little bit. You guys can let me know if it works. That's a little closer to how it was last time. Vesper, how is my voice? It's a little hard accommodating everybody. I am whispering a little bit, but not too much. Like, the mic is literally right here. Lumi is never too loud. Please deafen me. Zeb, please. You're soft, but I can hear you. Let's see. Let's see about my devices. Let's see. Speakers, headphones, mic. Okay, how about now for inputs? Am I still soft? I mean, again, I am whispering, but you guys should be able to, well, kind of whispering. I'm speaking lower register than normal, but you guys should be able to hear me. It looks like Windows changed my mic settings while I wasn't looking. Better? That's better? Okay. It was probably Windows. I don't think, usually it preserves my settings, so I don't think to check. Okay, so background music fine? Am I okay? Are we all good to get started? It's a little long for an intro, but we'll get there anyway. It's late in the evening, so I'll, actually it's early in the morning. So I will prescribe any issues to like late night stuff, you know? I've got a little bit of tea with me. It is black tea but peach flavored. So that's what's accompanying us tonight. Slash this morning. Ooh, it's hot. It's hot. I have to be careful. Yummy? Yes, I love peach tea. It's one of my favorite, like, artificial flavors. You can't really go wrong with peach, in my personal opinion. Before now, I compared you to 3 other streams to see if it was me and you were quieter than ASMR streams. That's interesting, because when I listen back to my streams, I don't have that issue. In my headphones or out loud, actually. But that's interesting. Yeah, that's so weird because Lumi sounds perfectly fine on my end. Yeah, we're in a nice liminal space between night and morning. Yeah, we are. Well, I think the sound is at least in a decent place. Also, hopefully, also a liminal space, you know? Hopefully, this will work for everybody. For anyone who's new, sorry for the delay in introduction. Hello, my name is Luminous Peak, and I am your friendly neighborhood fae here on sabbatical on Earth. That means I'm on a fancy paid vacation, basically. Learning about you humans, what you do, and what fun things have changed on Earth since I was last here a long time ago. Never sorry we ball. Yes, 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 yes. We do. Fuck it, we ball, you know. If there's one thing I've learned about humans, it's that they persevere despite difficult circumstances. Okay. So, first things first, housekeeping, right? Congratulations to our first, second, and third achievers, Kurisu, Eba, and Vesper, respectively. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure that is the order. Yes. Go for the golds. Silver is my favorite luxury color, but bronze is the prettiest, so it's not necessarily third in my book. So today, we are going to be revisiting a book that I read early on when I first started streaming. It is called Angelarium, Book of Emanations. And I'm gonna do myself a favor and just pull up the today command, which has a little more information about where you can find the author of this book. This is not a sponsored stream in any way. I just believe in giving credit to where credit is due when it comes to, you know, fictional works and things like that. This is actually an art book that was originally a Kickstarter that's now fully in print. It's been revised once since release, and I have the updated revised version of this book. I purchased it myself, and there are some illustrations. I will be showing off some of the illustrations from the official website of the author while we are going through this book. I have not decided yet if I'm going to keep the reading up all the way, because obviously this is like a community effort, but it's also a published book. So I did like search online for permissions for this, for like reading the book, but there isn't anything like definitely against it. He generally seems to be okay with people streaming some of the content, so long as you're not like just showing off anything that's not on the website, because he has some exclusive Patreon stuff. But all of these illustrations will be directly from the website, and you can actually check them out via the links that I listed if you are interested in looking. I'm gonna hydrate a little bit. So I wanted to give a summary of what this book is about, which is basically the summary on the surface is a human, Enoch, is whisked away to the Angelarium, the realm of angels, to chronicle their existences. He's got some penance to do before he heads back to the realm of the living, and the book kind of unfolds why. Beneath the surface, the illustrations of these angels that are depicted in the book are supposed to represent different sections in the Tree of Life. So the Tree of Life is basically a philosophy that has to do with the Kabbalah. So it's a school of thought that is supposed to basically list reasons and explanations about the relationship between our universe, God, if you happen to believe in that entity, and like the hidden meaning of the Torah, which is a religious text. So this is a part of Judaism. And basically the different pillars and spheres on the tree of life represent different experiences that we have, like metaphysical experiences that we have through life, right? So different experiences that we gain, and things that we are supposed to experience and go through on our like path to realization. Yes, the Sephiroth, if I remember correctly. Absolutely, Vesper. I'm going to add a link here to a really handy explanation of the Sephiroth and the different spheres that are on it for anyone who's curious about that. This is like overlapping with tarot philosophy, which I am very deeply ingrained with and a fan of. So I am just really into this particular philosophy. And I think it's an interesting read, even if you aren't especially religious. So just to go through the spheres really quickly, because I feel like this information, you don't need it to read the book, but it helps if you are reading and you know these things. So there are 10 nodes, and these are what the Sephiroth are. So the first one is Keter, the crown. There's Kokma, or wisdom. Then Bina, or understanding. There's Chesed, or mercy. Gebura, or severity. Tiferet, or harmony. There's Nezak, or triumph. Had, also known as glory. Yesad, or foundation. And then Malkuth, which is the kingdom, or like the manifestation of your journey. So there's connections between these things and tarot, but knowing what the traits are might help you connect the stories that are here, because I believe each one is supposed to represent like that metaphysical experience. Again, if you don't read the page, if you're not interested in all of that, the story should still be interesting. But it does help if you have that info, and I happen to know that there are people in my chat that find it interesting. So I just thought I would leave that information there. Oof. Before we get into this story, I did want to take a moment to ask, has anyone read any interesting stories lately? If not, that is totally fine. I am reading Devil's Creek currently. That sounds like it could belong to a few different genres. Do you think you can give us a succinct synopsis? Very much Stephen King vibes. Why, yes, as a matter of fact, I have. Oh my God, Kurisu, please. I have not, but I'm writing an interesting one because someone in here has amazing prompts. I wonder who that is. My guess is it's Kurisu or Vesper, to be honest. Either one of them, they both have good prompts. For those of you who don't know, Vesper Fortune does actually list daily prompts on his Twitter. I will be good and not bully Lumi today. Oh, you were talking about me. Oh. Well, anyway, Vesper posts daily prompts, so. Actually, I don't think I've shouted out Vesper before. I'm actually just gonna do it now, like, just because. They have not yet debuted, but they're gearing up towards debut. Let's see. Honestly, all three of the people currently in this chat do very good content. Kurisu also reads, and Zeba does scripts that other people read. Boop. I don't want to shout out everybody that I know all the time, but you know, great minds attract great minds, so they say. The Fabulous Four we are. Yes, absolutely. A tetrahedron of greatness, I would say. Aren't I so humble? Okay. I don't want to delay for too long. This is actually a fairly chunky read, and I'm actually going to try to get through the whole book in one go. I will say there are some sketchy illustrations by the author that are featured in the book, and I will not be showing you those. I think that it's important to support people who do original works like this. So if you want the entire contents of the book, you'll have to pick it up, won't you? But I have no issues with showing you at least what's publicly available on the website. So this book is broken up into two different types of sections, right? So there is one section, which is the overarching story, Enoch with the angels. And then there are asides, which are short stories, which are memories of Enoch and his life. I think that there's some peppered before and kind of premonitions of after he's done with his adventure as well. This is the first book in a coupling of books. The second book is called The Watchers, I believe. So hopefully we'll get to that another evening. It's a very interesting universe. I think you guys will enjoy it. The book, The Devil's Creek, is about kind of about a bunch of kids who survive a cult in their adult lives. How very interesting. That's definitely Stephen King vibes for sure. Gosh me, I am perhaps a step and a half down from fabulous, but I'm doing my best. You are not a step and a half down from fabulous. You are absolutely, fantastically, fancifully fabulous. I will not tolerate this self-deprecation. All it takes for you to be your best self is for you to believe in yourself. Man. It's true though. So anyway, I think we are pretty much done with the introductions. I'm trying to decide, do we just want white noise for our background reading today? Or do you guys like this music? This is sort of like a somber kind of read. I couldn't make up my mind about it while I was doing all my stream prep, so if anyone has any opinions on it, we'll decide that and then get going. If it doesn't matter to anyone, then I might keep this. I might keep this music. I'm good with music? Okay. I'm gonna wait just a second more to see if there's any other input. Seems good to me. Music good? Alrighty, then we'll plow forward. Okay. There is a forward here. So I guess I'll read that first. It is titled Understanding, and it basically goes through the concept of the Sephiroth like I did, but like more as a concept instead of the list. It says, when white light is split by a prism, the result shows you the spectrum of colors hidden within it. The emanations are like the colors that emerge when the light of human experience is split into its component pieces. The light itself is the tree of life, described in this book through an ancient diagram, the tree of Sephiroth. Sephiroth is a Hebrew word, the plural of Sephirah, which means emanation. The 10 emanations on the chart represent unique facts facets of our inner lives, each separated from its whole to be examined individually. But more importantly, they can be examined in their relationships with each other. This examination can illustrate the ways the forces of our own inner dialogue interact. And I actually have, I can pull up the photo of the Tree of Life from the website that I linked, just in case there are people watching the VOD later. I want to try to find the correct one because I think what I'm seeing is the point that connects to like the tarot, but I do want to provide like just a little visualization. So this is gonna pop up over my face. Boop. So this is the tarot guide. There's a little more emphasis on how the tarot correlates to it, but that's generally what the tree of life looks like. And these little round spheres that are on the tree basically have to do with the different Sephiroth themselves. Ooh, that's so much more intricate than the ones I've seen. Yes, I actually really like this one. Honestly, I would suggest this webpage. It's the same one that I linked. This is the Tree of Life explanation from the Prism Tarot. So just looking at it from the top, it basically is a very intuitive understanding of everything, as you can see here. They talk about the different pillars, the lightning flash, the journey from negative to positive forces, divine energy sent down to earth, and all of that. Like, it's a really good overview that doesn't take that long to read. So I would highly recommend it. But I'll keep this up for the rest of the reading. In Angelarium, I've illustrated the concepts that populate our lives as mythical beings. The story of Enoch's expedition through the Tree of Life is one of self-discovery, a journey mirroring my own as I've worked on this book series. I'm often asked if I've personally interacted with the beings in this book, and the answer is no. These images and stories are not a first-hand account of a magical faraway place. They are a reflection of the path that we all take in discovering the contents of our own hearts. In this way, I suppose I do know these entities quite intimately, even if I've never personally stood in the presence of a divine being. My hope with this book is for you to see a portion of your own experience in these paintings and stories. Enoch's path is one that I believe we're all walking day by day, hour by hour. We're searching for answers to who we are. Gotta love how awesome princesses are. Yeah, they're near like the balance. Yeah. I think that just in terms of how the tree is structured, it's very interesting how it correlates to like the life experience and the balance that we have to learn like as human beings. I don't want to get into it too much because I actually did do a stream that lectured on this once. And it can in fact be its own stream. But I agree. I think that it's very interesting that we basically spend our lives learning the extremes first, and then after that we sort of like back off into finding balance between those extremes. I feel like that's very accurate to life. You have to learn what things are first and then figure out what the moderation is. But okay, now that we've gone through the foreword, we'll actually just dive right in. So we have we just read like the foreword. This is like a preface to the story, basically, how it begins. This preface is called Ein Sah. The tree loomed over Enoch, an infinite mass of wood that curled upon itself, bending and twisting in intricate patterns that extended to an end he could not see. The story of this being's life is told in the tapestry of branches that wove around each other, each limb searching for its place within the whole. Enoch's eyes found a single groove within the bark and traced its path, following it as it wandered across the waves and eddies of a massive branch. It dove and danced along the surface of the tree, willful in its motion. Memories of Enoch's life hung in his mind. He overlaid them against the shapes of the bark, searching it like a map. Somewhere, it seemed, on the surface of this infinite being, his own life experiences were written. The possibility of the tree's power drew him close to it. If he could find the path of his own life, he could trace its curves to see the fate of the wife and son he had left behind. The line pressed upward towards the stars above, wandering like the path of a river as it reunited with the ocean. This tree was the heart of this place, a microcosm of the larger realm that surrounded it, the Angelarium. The clarity of Enoch's vision didn't last long. Finding a single person buried amid the chaos of creation was impossible. Beholding the enormity of the infinite being revealed the insignificance of his own life by comparison. A single dark speck lost in the night sky. He was alone. He'd never see his son grow up. He would never wake his wife with a kiss ever again. His future was wiped clean. What little value it had held was now erased. The realization of this loss grabbed at Enoch's heart and pulled tears from him. An angel stood tall over the crying man. It wore a sweeping costume of crisp gray fabric. Emerging from its back in two grand arches was a mesh of folded paper sheets that rose in the shape of wings. "You aren't lost, and neither are they," said the angel, startling Enoch. Standing in for its absent face was a pristine white dome, shining with crystalline clarity. "You can speak? What do you know of my family?" Shame for Enoch's open display of sadness quickly shifted into frustration, first with himself, but then with the angel. "I know all things." The angel turned its featureless mask towards Enoch. "I am Raziel." Enoch stared at Raziel. Seeking insight from his memory, he hoped for some long-lost recollection that could give context to this strange being. The name was familiar, but impossible to place. So many questions, yet he didn't know what to ask. Enoch wished his brother had been brought here instead. Israel had studied scripture. He already knew the names of these angels, the shape of this place. He could ask the questions that would have imposed meaning to this quest. What am I supposed to do now? Enoch's mind was too busy running through a list of regrets to fully acknowledge the situation as it was. Raziel stood motionless and then centered its sightless gaze towards the tree as though it were considering an answer, but ultimately chose not to speak. "I didn't choose to come here. I didn't want this." Throughout his life, Enoch had been a faithful man. He had always tried to be kind to those around him, but had never sought a higher purpose. Had he been offered the chance to witness the cradle of existence, he would have refused. To see the stars from below was enough. "I know," Raziel replied. Enoch nodded, calming himself. "Am I dead? I've wandered the land like a ghost with no food or water. I've sat awake through nights that pass in an instant and days that seem to last forever. The more I experience, the less I understand it." "You are not dead," said Raziel, straightening its vestments. "Then what is this place?" Enoch asked, steadying himself against one of the gargantuan roots. "It reaches out to me with lessons that I have no ability to learn. The knowledge of the infinite lies right here in front of me, and all I see are mysteries. My presence in this world means nothing, and yet it holds me here." Raziel walked over to Enoch and put its hands on the man's slumped shoulders. "It is as you say. You are living through a time you do not understand, a truth you should embrace if you want to find meaning in your existence here." The angel swept its hand outward towards the glowing sunrise. "Don't let your lack of understanding diminish the value you draw from it. Whether you look to its boundless skies or into a single grain of sand, you are seeing it completely. There is no word that does not describe it and no silence that betrays it. It's everything and nothing in one. The angel's guidance was a darkened doorway that Enoch struggled to find the will to walk through. I see. No, not yet, but you will, Raziel replied sharply. Do not seek to understand, simply stand witness. Enoch reached his hand out towards the tree's trunk and leaned his weight against it as he turned to face it. Everything about it felt real, perhaps the most real thing he had ever touched. The presence of the tree flooded into him, washing away the dread that had grown in his heart. What's inside? Wood, said Raziel musically. Also nothing, and all things. What you are seeing is the whole of what it is. Raziel reached out its own hand and touched the tree and spoke its name, Ein Sof. Enoch looked up to the angel's empty face. His own softened into a calm resolution. Can you teach me more? Raziel pulled back, its wings flaring outward. It reached into its garments, retrieving a sizable book before offering it to Enoch. Enoch received the tome with care, pulling its weight towards his body. Opening it reverently, he was surprised to find that its pages were blank. Enoch trailed away, realizing his observation was too obvious. He looked up and the infinite landscape of clouds had given way to a small forest grove. His feet were planted on the firm ground on top of an unfamiliar hill. The sound of women's voices drifted to his ear amid the rustling leaves. The scent of freshly cut plants washed over him as he stood, stunned. Looking upon this simple scene, he clutched the book, feeling its purpose clearly. He followed the voices and searched for something to write with. So that's the intro. What did you guys think? Very lovely. Yeah, I think the writing style is very lovely. This is definitely a sort of, you have to dig deep into it sort of book. I don't have the proper emos to express how intrigued I am. Me likey. Yeah, I think the writing is very poetic, and that one makes it just interesting to listen to, even if it's just being read to you. But also it offers things that you can dig into, you know? Okay. So the very first angel in the Angelarium represents Keter, which is emanation of the crown. And there's a section that just gives you a summary of this being. So I am going to show you images of it while I read about it, and then we'll move into the actual story. But it doesn't feel like uber religious. It edges more on mythology. Yes, it does. I think that this does a very good job at taking a philosophy that applies to a religion and keeping the philosophy portions of it. So really quickly, hi Lemon. Hi, am sleeping. Yes, if you're sleeping, that's perfectly fine. You should be sleeping anyway, although I'm glad that you showed up to say hello. So here is Keter while I read the small blurb about it. Keter, the first emanation. It is the font of energy through which the infinite permeates into the universe. One must envision Keter not as an object that can be perceived, but as the light that is cast upon it. Keter's light is a force beyond knowability, a timeless expanse of pure consciousness. It may be helpful to imagine the vertical length of the tree as a continuum from spiritual to physical, beginning with Keter above all. Journeying downward from this point, all other emanations become increasingly closer to our present experience. And then there's an excerpt at the bottom that says, A silver rim is adorned with a single drop of pure light dancing to an unknowable rhythm. It thrums in the dark, and a melody pours from it, slow and out of time, a palace of mirrors. Am I allowed to say they're hot? I think so. I think so. Quite honestly, I think that it works pretty well. Oh, there is another photo here. I'll have that up next to the second section I'm reading here. They are very hot. I agree that they are very hot. Okay. This first section says, "The first dream, Enoch's door." There is a place that is always dark. It is not oblivion because it exists. It is a tree whose branches encompass all unfathomable spaces, weaving one into another. An infinite existence that stretches out faster than the mind can venture into it. An unseen horizon racing out ahead of the light of consciousness. This place has no beginning. It has existed without time or location. There was nothing that might call it creator, nothing to give it a name. We know it not by our perception of it, but by the shadow it casts upon our minds. In this dark place, a light shoots across its length, the light of a star pulled across the length of existence. It shone as though it had always been there, a lone crease in a perfectly black expanse. Within that light stood a man staring through a doorway. How cryptic. So that was Kater. And there's a little bit of extra stuff on the website about it, which I can read through if you would like. I'm not sure, how deeply this text is penetrating, because it is a little dense on the philosophy. But I am definitely down to read the description on the website if you guys think it would help a little more. Other than that, we'll move on to the next emanation, which would be Raziel. Thoughts? If you want to, sure. Okay, so the little bit about Kater here from the website says, the first emanation is the first utterance, the font of energy through which Ein Sof permeates to the universe. Let's see, is there a little bit here? Yes, there is, okay. As the highest point on the tree, all continuums cascade downwards from it. Kater stands in contrast to Malkuth, who rests at the very bottom of the tree. The span that lies between them measures the complete distance from most spiritual to the most physical aspects of our existence. Journeying downwards from this point, that is where we get things that are closer to our present experience. Where? Oh, yes, there is a little bit more. So sublime, incomprehensible, and unknowable, the infinite stream from which Ein Sof is channeled. This is pure consciousness beyond all and timeless. The opening, a singularity from which the Sephiroth are created, which I think is the piece of information that people would want to know. The opening from where the Sephiroth are created. Yeah. Okay, let's see if I can find this next one. Because this next one is Raziel. Yes, I've got him. I'd certainly love to. Oh, if you want to, I'm just chilling to angels. Yeah, I certainly love to hear it either way. Yes. In regards to this topic, I suppose I should obligatory be not afraid. Okay, so here's the photo that is actually here from the website for Raziel. So Raziel is the angel of mysteries, and he's important here mostly because he was mentioned in the last section. So Raziel is the angel of mysteries. Raziel is the keeper of all knowledge and the speaker of truths. This angel stands at the foot of the tree of life and notes all creation, diligently recording its observations into a great tome. This book contains the answers to everything, even questions you never thought to ask. It is the lens that captures the view from the corner of the universe's eye. There are some things that simply cannot be known. Within that space, Raziel stands alone, an angel apart from angels, keeper of truths never spoken aloud. And from here, we have a short interlude, story called House of Pearls. And I think that has some additional art. Let me try to find it. Yes. So this interlude is called House of Pearls. A great temple shone atop a hill in a pure white glow. Its size and magnificence made it tempting to explore, so Enoch ventured towards it. Passing through its doorway, Enoch could see the whole structure was built entirely from pearls, an uncountable number of tiny orbs. Their iridescent splendor, stacked one on top of the other in swirling patterns, were held together firmly through careful arrangement of their sizes and imperfections. The walls twisted and bent in grand arches that extended to dizzying heights above his head. He craned his neck back, squinting into the brilliance of a vaulted dome that hung above him. It's crafted without a single drop of mortar. Raziel's polished tones were easy to recognize. Since arriving in the Angelarium, only 2 beings had spoken to him, and surprise visits from this angel had become commonplace. I built this place as a tribute to the secrets people keep from each other. Raziel gestured upward, shifting its weight. As it did so, the floor clicked softly as the blanket of pearls slid out of their perfect order. It's tempting to pull it apart, no? From a nearby pillar, Enoch held a pearl between his fingers, tugging at it gently. The urge to see these tiny marbles crashing apart pulled at him. It would be an amazing sight, but to destroy something so beautiful was childish. Is there a lesson in it? He asked, knowing not to expect a satisfying answer. I suppose if you find some wisdom in it, that would be a fine thing. Raziel paused to admire its work. The task would have taken any mortal countless lifetimes to complete. Perhaps the same was true for this angel. It had never exhibited any extraordinary abilities in Enoch's presence, just a peculiar sense of humanity that the other angels lacked. Raziel turned the polished mask of its face towards Enoch in a slow, intense gesture. My intent here is to simply reflect on what is in front of me. Looking past the mirrored surface of the angel's face, Enoch could see his own compressed visage floating amid a sea of finely stacked pearls. One dark body surrounded by a vast world of light. Millions upon millions of tiny secrets stacked together into a monument of beautiful truths left untold. Thoughts kept private, words never spoken. Enoch had built a palace like this in his own heart, stacking away his truths in careful order. When was the last time he told Edna he loved her? So that's the first little interlude story. Edna is his wife, I believe. Enoch seems to be going through it, honestly. He's having a rough day. I feel like that's putting it lightly, you know. That's so chilling though. Yeah, I agree. The idea of people stacking their secrets and untold truths. I guess technically a secret is an untold truth, right? I love this book already. Enoch out here looking at all the angels. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm halfway through my tea already. All right, so the next emanation is Kokma, the emanation of wisdom. So let's find the piece that's here. I gotta hit the hay. Thank you for the bedtime stories. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for stopping by, Vesper. I hope you sleep well. Mwah. Good night. I know it's early in the morning for me, so it's definitely got to be early for everyone else too. Okay. Kokma. Here we go. This is Kokma, the emanation of wisdom. The second emanation, a vessel we use to carry experience itself. Kokma is the first moment a newborn child opens their eyes. That child's first steps. The beginning of a lifelong journey whose path disappears over the horizon. Where Keter is the pen that hangs above the page, Kokma is the moment of contact. Descending from the summit of the tree, we see its duality begin to form. Kokma sits atop the pillar of mercy, forming the first masculine aspect of the diagram and nesting with his partner, Bina. Their relationship gives us the power of comprehension. First steps, like first love, require a commitment to things you cannot know. The requisite faith to leap into the chasm without even the uncertainty of death or the hope of flight. Kokma is not the step. Kokma is the ephemeral decision dissolving into action. Kokma is the first light of reality. Open your eyes. That's the little excerpt there. Pretty dope. And again, they said this, but Kokma is mercy. Or I'm sorry, it's the top of the pillar of mercy. I'm sorry. So basically, one of the pillars is, how to put this? So like one of the pillars is severity and the other is mercy. And then there's like mildness in the middle. So this would be the top right of the pillar. So the first Sephiroth of mercy is Kokma, and Kokma is wisdom. Sorry. It's easy to mix up the pillars and the actual Sephiroth if you aren't careful. Alrighty. So now we're gonna move on to the second dream. And there is, of course, a piece of art to accompany this as well. The second dream, the canvas. Enoch arrived home after dark. The twisted path of lamps lining his street guided him back to the safety of his sparse apartment. He pushed past the mess and locked the door behind him, the latch holding the weight of the outside world at bay. Tonight, he didn't want to be interrupted in his work. His tools waited for him in the far corner of the room, jars stacked in a jumble full of pigments and solvents, clay pots with collected brushes standing upright. All of it was stained with color. In creating art, he sought to witness the process of something more essential. It was not mixing paint or crafting sketches or even the raw intellectual pursuit that drew him in, but the abstract methods, the changed minds, the perception, the inspiration as it formed into brushstrokes. The light was much lower than Enoch expected. The canvas lay bare, illuminated by lamplight. Let's get started. Standing at his easel, Enoch had dressed lightly despite the waning warmth of the day. A smattering of vibrant paint stood out against the flesh of his bare arms. He had been mixing the paint directly onto them. The thought occurred to Enoch to make a note of that in his book, but that was not the task at hand. He stabbed at the canvas with a brutality that would be admired on any battlefield. Armed with as many brushes as he could fit between his fingers, his hand made his arm look like a felled tree hanging from his body. Shapes began to appear on the canvas, focusing into bodies and faces, an outstretched hand grasping at fallen fruit. Even in this light, the vibrancy of the apple leaped through the room, striking Enoch's senses. Hours passed as this battle of creation continued. In a garden extended an image, a piece of fruit fallen from its tree, a man leaping for the fruit, soldiers surrounding him, their swords crashing down on his body. On his face, a soft smile. Enoch sighed loudly, and the air of it howled through his body, making him sound hollow. He was making small strokes now, adjusting the light here and the temperature there, bringing the narrative into focus. Few decisions remained now, so few strokes. He stepped back and reviewed his work. An hour of this had stretched into an entire night. The candles had melted to their nubs. Still armed with the bramble of bushes in his fist, he whistled a slow, tenuous melody, raised his hand, and slowly painted over his creation. The canvas, blank again, was finished. Enoch collapsed into a worn leather chair and grasped for his pipe. Letting loose a deep cloud of smoke, he spoke into the darkened room. All things have potential. So I think that was interesting. I read this once a long time ago, but now I'm sort of making more of the connections between the emanations and things themselves and his experiences. So I think that these dreams are some of them seem to be in the future after he's left the Angelarium, and then some of them are in the past. It's a little difficult to tell, but I think they are definitely supposed to represent experiences that he's had that embody, the emanations. So that's an interesting way to look at it. How dare he specifically? Yes, how dare he paint something very interesting and then paint over it? It's almost like the mandala, right? Like you make the shapes in the sand and then you clear it almost immediately after. The journey is in the decisions that you make to make the thing, right? That's where the value is. Those moments where you're inspired by specific things and the potential takes shape that moment. I mean, I get it though. Sure, you can work as long as you want and it could be great. It always could. Yeah, exactly. And I find that interesting that it's connected to Kokma specifically, which is wisdom. So that's interesting. Okay. The next section is an angel, and I think that this is how the book alternates. I think we alternate between the emanations from the Tree of Life and then the angelic figures also. I think. We'll see as we go along. The next one anyway is Leliel, which is Angel of the Night, and I am gonna pull up a picture of them for you guys. Again, just as a reminder, these are all available on the website, and there are some extra images there too. I am only sharing the ones that actually appear in the book, but there are some extras. Boop. This one's a little small. Let's make it bigger. Hey. Wife? Funny. Okay. Leliel, Angel of the Night. Leliel is a fleeting spirit who dances across the sky, beautiful but aloof. Under this angel's flowing veils, its acolytes take refuge, a quiet parade of revelers, thriving in darkness, who march across the world in endless celebration. Those who forego the daylight might participate in this grand show for a time before this angel runs off to its next performance. And there's a little excerpt underneath this one as well. It says, "The beat of her wings rests upon our ears like distant thunder, like the strike of the moon across the hot black sky. She is a rising star and a falling thought, the sweet caress of the mind washed smooth by sleep. Beautiful Leliel, angel of the night, you've been away too long." That's right, though. I need the angel of the night to come help me sleep. That would be cool. And then we have a little excerpt about this angel here. I love them. I love she. I'm glad you do. Okay. Here's the second illustration for this little blurb. This one is titled Veils. It says, "Most nights in the Angelarium, the sky seemed normal, but not tonight. Enoch sat silently, listening to insects whine loudly in the distance when the colors began whirling overhead at great speed. As the sun pulled away from the sky and the darkness chased it down, the night pursued it with great excitement. Glittering gems danced as they streaked overhead in a silent stampede. On one side, they rose, and on the other, they fell, diving carelessly away from sight into an infinite unknown. Enoch's heart called out to them as they vanished. They abandoned their place in the sky so quickly, so carelessly. Though the display they made was beautiful, it was hard not to mourn their speedy passage. A beautiful figure led this celestial procession, an angel in the shape of a woman in golden armor. From its hips, the wings of a crow swept outward. Its body was covered in dark cloth that bled into the night sky, a dark veil half concealed and a wry smile on its face. The figure didn't acknowledge its audience as it swept its silken cloth overhead in a fitful dance. Enoch sat wide-eyed, dazzled by each swirling spin as it let loose a whistling call that split the air. Each swing drove the stars through space in its wake. Its feet seemed to land on thin air for a moment as its legs flexed, drawing in power before vaulting from view in a streaming trail of glittering cloth and dying starlight. The rush of wind in its wake carried the insect's song and the smell of flowers. The sun emerged with a sudden start, triggering Enoch to reach for his book. He held the vision of the angel in his mind as best he could as he tried to find the words to describe it. But the quill hung above the page impotently. He wanted this encounter to exist in his memory as vividly as he had beheld it, but the creeping realization of that impossibility rose to stop him. He captured what he could from the experience in his notes before his pen ran dry and the remainder died in his memory. I need to buy this book for all the reasons, every single reason ever. Yes. And well, that was vivid and alluring. Yes, I agree. I know you're talking about the previous excerpt describing it. I think that the excerpt, the blurb they had there at the bottom of the page introducing Leliel was probably like from some sort of ritual referencing it specifically as she. Wow. Yes, I agree. This is a great book. I definitely recommend. I haven't actually read the second one. I've been saving it to do on stream, and I just wanted to revisit it. You guys didn't hear me read it the first time. A lot of people didn't hear me read it the first time. Oh, there's a second one? Yes, there is a second book here. And I think there's a 2-book set like on the website. Again, this stream isn't sponsored or anything. I just actually really like this book. Okay. I am going to read the next emanation, which is Bina, Bina is the partner of Kokma. So Kokma is wisdom and Bina is knowledge. So that kind of makes sense. I think if you say them together, it's a little easier to make those connections. So we have Bina. Bina is also fine. Honestly, all of these angels are fine. Fine AF, honestly. So let's get a picture of Bina up. Boop. Bina, the emanation of knowledge. The third emanation, a flow of light that illuminates the world. Bina is like the flame of a candle, able to light another without diminishing its own. A flare of pure intent that blossoms from existence and illuminates the mind. Bina sits atop the pillar of severity, forming the first of the feminine aspects of the tree, creating a perfect balance with Kokma at her side. Kokma acts as a vessel, and Bina fills that vessel, giving it purpose. And the little blurb at the bottom says, all things in all forms, under all light, are given shape. Under this axiom, potentiality falls away. A song must begin, thunder must crash from above, the sun must rise, all from potential. Existence blossoms in a palace of mirrors. The light cast there is called Bina. Also, wife, I guess I just have to accept that all angels are spouse. Yes. So this next section is the third dream, spreading fire. I'm going to read it and then immediately take a short break so that I can refill my tea. So here is the image for this particular short story. Boop. All right, here we go. As the wind flapped from the side of the tiny tent, Enoch stirred at a sound like the beating of wings. His eyes opened to the sight of fabric panels illuminated by the first signs of daylight. Cold morning air filled his nose as he drew a deep breath. With his bedroll curled up to his chin, Enoch lay silently, trying to hold on to that last remnant of a dream. No images, just a thin longing that rushed away as new sensations filled his mind. Emerging from his tent into the pre-dawn light, the pale blue glow of the waking sky revealed thousands of other tents stretching out in every direction. Pitched canvases, each with a sleeping occupant inside. As the lone waking soul, Enoch's heart reached out to those still asleep, wishing them the same peace he felt in this moment as he watched them. Probing the embers from last night's fire, Enoch found that they still held warmth, just enough heat to be relit. Gathering dry tinder, he set about the process of building the morning's flame. A shiver danced through his whole body. This warmth couldn't come soon enough. He winced through the discomfort, building a small wooden home for the fire and feeding it a fresh handful of dried grass, a breakfast his flame was happy to devour. The sun peered over the horizon, touching the back of Enoch's head as he tended the fire, a welcome caress. The sun's light woke more of the sleepers, and they emerged from their tents, stretching and settling about their own rituals. Hanging a small kettle over his fire, Enoch heated water for a cup of tea. As he stared into it, a young man with a stick in his hand approached Enoch tentatively. The young man gestured to the fire with his branch. "May I?" Enoch shyly cleared his throat, not having tested his voice yet this morning, and mustered a smile and a nod, offering the emerging light to his visitor. Moving quickly, the young man ducked in close, thrusting the stick into the heart of the fire. His hurried work put a smile on Enoch's face. The boy didn't understand the joy Enoch felt in having the opportunity to share his bounty. When the stick drew flame, the young man rushed back to his own tinder, bringing its fire to life. As Enoch looked on, his smile grew. He saw the joy in the face of the young man's companion, another boy huddled under a blanket. Soon, their neighbors came to draw fire in turn, and the warmth of Enoch's fire spread throughout the camp, passed hand to hand. The warmth of their new light had not diminished his own. Oh, also, I will start tea then. Yes. So this one was a little more straightforward. You know, knowledge, the point of knowledge is for you to enlighten other people, and it shouldn't detract from you as a person for other people to have the knowledge that you have. It should be like, you know, a community thing, a humanity thing, which is very nice. Yeah, it was very sweet. I agree. Okay. I am going to take a very quick break. We've actually made it further than I thought we were going to make it. We still have quite a bit to go. But these are going by fairly quickly. We've only been recording for like an hour, so I'm doing pretty well. I'm gonna do my BRB, and then we'll go, I guess. I feel like oh no. I feel like what I have done is not set this BRB up. So actually what I'm gonna do is just vanish from the screen for a moment. And I'll be right back. The bed looks comfy. It's pretty comfy. Can confirm. I am back. And I have tea. I added a little lemon as well. Trying to be good to my throat so it will be good to me. Okay, so the next emanation, because we actually go straight into another emanation here. This one is Da'at, the emptiness. Ooh. Ooh, lemon, yes. For a moment, I thought you were talking about Lemon who went to sleep. But I literally just said I put lemon in my tea. Okay. I am refreshed. Let us move on to Dot. So... Da'at is the emanation of emptiness. And this one is an exception. This is an interesting one. You'll see when I read it. So here we go. Oh, whoops. I mean, JK, we are chill vibes today. We are chill vibes today. Okay. Da'at, the emanation of emptiness. Da'at is not considered to be a part of the tree of life at all. It is a void. To give name to the absence of existence fails to accurately describe it, because description itself gives substance to where there is none. Da'at is extremely unique in that it has no connection to the other emanations. Its solitary nature sets it apart from the other aspects of the tree of life in such a significant way that Da'at is not considered an emanation. It is Keter's shadow, an essential space through which we can observe the nature of all other aspects that surround it. And there is an excerpt at the bottom. It says, Ein Sof fills the world with so much light. It opens the eyes of creation and widens the mouth of existence. The many faces of Da'at turn and turn in that light, catching the overflow within the crown of the mind. Da'at holds the Sephiro as a word might carry many meanings. So that's very interesting. Yeah, yes. Oh, yes. I have a friend who's like very into, I'm not sure how to say this, like negative spaces, the absence of things. And she is a big fan of Da'at. She was very, oh my God, please, can I marry it? In response to seeing this art. Negative space is nice. Yeah, I agree. Okay, now here's another excerpt. This one is called An Empty Hall. The absence of space is great, though great is not the word. Yes, I agree. And also, I found something very interesting before I dive into the little next excerpt. The to description itself gives substance where there is none relates very personally to me. To me specifically as a fae. We don't really have names because to name us is to give us an identity, and once you have one of those, if you're talking to someone powerful enough, they can steal it. It's not like a lot of people, I think, are like, oh, well, you can't like have a name like what your parents call you, but like a name, a reputation, a title, those are all like identities, you know? So if you give away who you are in a nutshell, it's up for grabs, you know? Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. I like how this relates to like being meta for a moment. In the lore, I'm related to one of the SEPs, which is like the forest that the Fae live in. And basically even it's the entire file is called redacted because even labeling it in the file gives it, like, basically feeds it power to have an effect in this realm, which is like super interesting. The idea of description adding substance. I think that people don't think very hard about language and how it shapes the perception of things. Even just looking back in like human history, there was once a time, for example, where in different civilizations, blue and green were viewed to be shades of the same color. And it was only after contact with different civilizations that had different words for the colors like blue and green that it became sort of like a widespread kind of thing. Very similar for red and orange. Red and orange were originally considered to be part of the same spectrum of color. And there are other, examples of things. Like by language being arbitrary, we bring things to life by giving them descriptions. We make them real by adding realness to them and Real here would be the description of what we perceive, you know? So, like, if you have a person who's never seen something before and you describe it, for example, with something else they've never seen before, they don't know what it is and it basically doesn't exist. In certain, at least certain philosophies would say it doesn't exist because they don't know what it is. Like, think of a person who has like never seen snow because they live like in a tropical, you know, area or whatever. Trying to describe snow to someone who's never seen it, very interesting. And just all they have to go off of is your description. So if you describe it in a weird way or to, you know, other people who know what it is, or you describe it incorrectly, like, it doesn't really matter. You've shaped their perception of what that thing is. Like, you've given them that concept. And I think that that's super interesting when you're considering like the lack of things. Like, you know, there's the saying that even nothing is something, right? And it's true, because nothing is the description of a lack of something, which is a thing in and of itself. That's like a rabbit hole, you know, I'm sure, but I find it very interesting. I feel like this book is a very good conversation starter in that way. But okay, without further ado, the next excerpt is an empty hall, and this is the photo accompanying it. It's a fascinating rabbit hole, I agree. Okay. An empty hall. Enoch entered the empty monastery, immediately aware of its pristine floors and scrubbed walls. The locals said the ancient religion that founded this citadel had disappeared, unseen for millennia. Then why maintain this place? Enoch wondered aloud as he admired the finely carved columns that lined the hall. He could smell the trace scent of incense still hanging in the air, a clean smell. Upon the altar sat a basket of fruit. Light danced across it. The glow on the grape skin was a shock to Enoch's senses. It had been said that this priory was left behind for others, a sanctuary for worship of any variety. Along the archway, ancient words were carved. Worship wears no mask. Standing alone in the vacant hall, Enoch furrowed his brow, contemplating the words. Since he'd begun his pilgrimage, he'd witnessed a multitude of worshippers practicing all manner of ritual. In each act, they donned an identity, not only as an individual, but also as a supplicant to their religion. The hearing of the Church of None had brought him to this place. His arrival in the early hours had been no accident. It was important to him to see this place before its first congregation arrived. He craved the sanctity of solitude. The light passed between the columns, illuminating a thin dervish of dust dancing in the air. Enoch examined his sandals, suddenly aware of the sand he'd tracked in. Embarrassed, he took a seat underneath a beam of light, deepening the shade of a shadowed alcove. He watched, observing the glowing motes of dust dancing and spinning in the air. He imagined the light as a model of his own heart, a ray of light suspended in the dancing emotions, within them a reflection of higher mysteries. He made his prayer silently, exalting the motes of dust and thanking the shadows that surrounded him. Lots of possibilities, yes, and cute, yes. I think that is a very cute picture of Da'at. A nice representation. Okay. We have Hesed, the emanation of empathy, next. So let me pull up Hesed. I've lost my place. Which doesn't help, obviously. Let's see if I can actually find it. I had it pulled up, but like, I think I closed too many tabs. Let's see. It might be missing. I actually don't see it on the page. Sag. I want to like make sure that I'm like not crazy. Oh, no. Here we go. I got it. There's two different pronunciations for this. There's Hesed, there's Chesed. Both of them. And I wasn't looking for the second one. My bad. Yes, here we go. Boop. No, missing. No, it's not missing. It's Hesed here, but it's Chesed depending on translation. I forgot about that. I know that these are, you know, like Hebrew, of Hebrew origin. And I knew more about them a long time ago when I was first interested in them, but I've forgotten some details. Okay. Hesed, the emanation of empathy. The fourth emanation. Hesed is the force that pulls humanity together, allowing peace to exist between us. Our need for love is an essential part of our existence and transcends all other potential differences we might have. Through that desire, we bind tighter. Hesed is at the very center of the pillar of mercy, defining its core characteristic, forming an extreme opposite to its female counterpart, Gevura. They are the two arms of the tree that extend in opposite directions. Their wrestling match cannot be won by either side, yet the struggle itself defines our morality. I love she. She reminds me of a thing. And just as like a quick reminder, Hesed or Chesed is mercy, as stated in the text, and Gebura, which is mentioned in this excerpt, is severity. So they're opposites of each other. And there is an excerpt here at the bottom. It's forlorn, compulsory, like a deep river or a dispute that's been calmed by a gentle touch. Like undying tears that don't just fall, they cascade. It's formed, formless. It's the measure of simple things that leave you devastated, like a warm embrace, like forgiven sins. I beg your pardon. My answers are tangled in a labyrinth of questions. How does one succinctly describe the font from which love springs? Such is the mystery of Hesed. And it says here this is an excerpt from an overheard conversation. It sounds like it, though. That's such a profound question. How does one succinctly describe the font from which love springs? It's true, though. I think that's a very difficult thing to describe. Okay. I think some people would say that mercy is a type of love. I agree. I know that there's a lot of different philosophical thoughts on like love and what it is, but for sure, mercy is something that you have to show through your actions. So I think that it would encapsulate most people's concept of love. Oh man, this book is so cool. I agree. I know that it's a little dense. It's not, exactly the same as like this happened and then this person did this and then they went here and this happened. But I think that just the concepts that are represented here are really great. I know that this might, not be the type of story that a lot of people enjoy, but I'm really, really into it. So this is kind of a selfish dream, Okay, we have another image of Hesed to go with this fourth dream, which is tears. So here we go. Papa, please come. There's a snake, the young boy in the clearing exclaimed. At the alarm of his son, Enoch rose from his repose against a tree, tossing his books into the grass, each volume a different color and now open to the sky. Get back! The sharpness of Enoch's tone triggered the snake's response. It uncoiled, launching itself toward the boy. Enoch snapped a hand around the snake just under its bulbous head. Its body thrashed and whipped along his forearm, its eyes glittering in the afternoon heat, focused on the boy. Boy, are you injured? Enoch looked coldly at his son. Seeing the boy frozen, his anger rose. The boy had been careless to wander close to such a dangerous animal. A punishment was due them both. Enoch's knuckles tightened at the serpent's throat, and the sounds of the boy's tears washed under his attention as heat rose in his face. His own throat tightened as he squeezed the snake. Papa, no, the boy choked out. Don't hurt him. Tears streamed down the boy's face, not for his own safety, but for the snake's. Enoch turned the creature's face towards his own. Its fangs were bared, an expression of pure wrath, but in the black orbs of its eyes, fear pooled. Not unlike the fear and anger he felt for his son's safety. The emotions were ugly. He didn't want to be this way. Don't be afraid, Enoch said, softening a little. No one is going to die today. He moved to a nearby river, relaxing his grip. Kneeling, he deposited the snake into the cool water, careful not to expose his hand to its venom-filled fangs. Once released, its body trailed underneath the surface of the stream. Enoch's anger vanished silently along with the beast. As Enoch rose, the boy slammed into his father's back, nearly knocking him down. He could feel his son's tears soak through the back of his robes. No one is going to die today, he repeated. So yeah, that's it's pretty direct. I feel like that's, I don't even think that needs any real explanation, to be honest. I think it's a pretty direct account of mercy, I feel like it's hard to really depict it any other way, honestly. Okay. The next one is actually an angel. We have another angel. Interesting. I do not remember the order of any of these, so we're just kind of winging it, even though I've read through this once before. I remember like the short stories, but not the order that they were in. So we're gonna move straight into Sahakio. Sahakio. There you go. And here is the image. Sahakio is the angel of the sky. It says here, the shield bearer and gatekeeper who stands outside of the portal between the Angelarium and the rest of existence. Sahakio blesses and protects us, a benevolent figure without equal in its compassion. That which is vulnerable needs to be protected. This angel stands in defense of what's precious. I like this art though. It's very fuck around and find out-ish, which I like. It has different design language than some of the other ones that we've seen. And there is, of course, an excerpt underneath which says, the scholar fashioned wings of his design and leapt from the citadel, drifting amid radiance towards injury and fame. What bondages wait? Even in burial we ascend. Definitely, yeah. Very fuck around and find out energy. Okay. We have a small excerpt to go along with this. So let's take a look at the image that goes with this. Boop. This is titled House of the Shield. Turning to leave the palace, Enoch walked through the massive arched doorway and stopped. The portal opened into a sprawling scene of clouds and sky. This path should have led back out to the palace grounds, but instead, the palace's foundation extended downward in an infinitely tall stone block. There was no bottom, just a sharp drop into an empty blue void. Enoch's world seemed to tilt, threatening to pour him over the ledge. Was it possible to die in the Angelarium? If he fell, would he be trapped, falling forever? He staggered back, his balance failing. The air rushed into his lungs as he remembered to breathe, bringing with it a dizzying lightness in his head. Navigating this place would be impossible. How was he to find his way if time and space could not be relied upon? An angel passed by the doorway. The enormity of its body was such that only the dome of its head was visible through the human-sized opening. As it slid upward through the vast expanse, the empty chasm of its absent face drew into view. An orb of stone hung weightless in the center of the vacant space within the head. The angel paused, the way someone might look with fascination, though it had no eyes with which to peer. It held still for just a moment before it turned to sail away into the infinite sea of clouds and light. This space was its home. How much were these beings aware of Enoch's presence? In a palace of infinite wonders, it seemed unlikely for a lone insect to be so sought after. It was hard to know if these wordless beings came to him with a purpose, or if this was simply their nature. I like that one. I feel like that one is more, it's got like a couple like world building elements in that short story. It feels a little more solid, you know, like as an experience than some of the others. He did not have to fuck around, therefore he did not find out. I agree. Okay. The next emanation that we have here is Gevura, which is the emanation of judgment. Who doesn't like that? Who doesn't enjoy judgment? Are you ready to see what judgment looks like? Talking about fucking around and finding out, right? Like, alrighty, here we go. Boop. The fifth emanation. Gevura is the power to draw the boundary of our identities. Demanding both fear and respect, she comes with the inherent possibility of violence. Without enmity, we carve away that which becomes a part of us from that which must remain separate. Gevura's position at the center of the pillar of severity defines her core trait. The push against Hesed is met with a pull of equal and opposite resistance. Without a balance of the two forces, we would have no means of maintaining healthy relationships. We must have the judgment to drive away that which harms us so that we have room to embrace that which enriches us. And of course, a tiny script at the bottom. The forceful hand must temper the dreams of existence with harsh protocol, ever steadying the wings of migrant hearts to ensure the journey. And this is an inscription on a tomb. Yes, Gevura, very hot. I also like the way, so like Gevura is the emanation of judgment. And I like the description that judgment is carving away the things that become a part of us from the things that have to remain separate. That's very profound to me personally. Like, when we decide that we like things or that we don't like things or that something is, you know, like wrong or right for us, it is in a way not saying that it can't be right for someone else, but deciding that it's not a part of our being and like taking the moment to separate ourselves from that by that declaration and decision, which is in fact what judgment is actually. Yeah, I think that fits so well, but it's just not a phrasing that you would normally think of, you know? It's definitely profound. That's definitely the word for it. Yeah. I mean, I know that the tree of life in general is a profound like kind of concept, but even just seeing like the elements broken down into this microcosm, right? I can see why the artist decided that these had to be like larger than life beings, because I feel like these are larger than life concepts. Like these are like small things that we do every day, but phrased in like the greater big picture type of realm, which is kind of tough to swallow in some respects. Because we live like in a window or tunnel that's very close to what we are doing and how it affects us directly. there's not as much consideration for um like just the zoom out, the big picture of like how does this relate to the human experience in general and not just specifically my life, which I like a lot. I am a big fan of just being given the words, right? The words to something that's kind of difficult to articulate. Very nice. But okay, here we go. There is a fifth dream, and it is called The Robes of Knotted Thread. So here we go. Here is the featured image. After his journal was stolen, Enoch found himself stuck for many years in an unpleasant little village searching for it. Theft and murder were the bedrock of this place. Crimes of passion, greed, and malice. A holdover from its time as a prison camp during a long-forgotten war. The spirit of the place itself had been corrupted, leaving those within it pressured to follow its depraved will. One gray morning, Enoch spotted a solitary woman in robes of knotted thread who was new to the village. The woman rented a hovel at the edge of town near Enoch and kept mostly to herself, though she smiled warmly whenever she was greeted. Her wholesome nature made Enoch worry for the woman's safety. He'd seen other kindly people ruined already. Curious, Enoch asked the woman in knotted robes why she'd come to this place. "I'm looking for something that's gone missing." "And you?" the woman probed cheerily. "My journal," Enoch replied. "I can't leave until I find it. It is worth more to me than my own life. Though I'm worried if I stay much longer, I'll lose both." Over the next year, the village brightened. One by one, the worst of the criminal offenders met strange ends. Some of them vanished or left the village in search of easier marks, but a few of their bodies were discovered with fatal slash wounds. Enoch was convinced there was some conflict among the criminals causing this attrition, but the dead bodies pointed to the work of a lone swordsman. Their evil was the only force in this place that had sway, and yet that power was slipping. The town now filled with the light laughter of children in their carefree games. There were rumors of a man people called the Constable, a lone man who had fought for the lives of the innocent. Enoch doubted it until one morning when a parcel appeared on his doorstep with his journal inside. The wrapping was signed by the Constable himself. Relieved, Enoch set out to depart the next day. That previous morning, the woman in knotted robes had gone missing. It made Enoch's heart sink that this place would claim one last victim before he moved on. There were few goodbyes he wished to say before leaving. Enoch went to the dwelling of the woman in the knotted robes kept, but there was no sign anyone had ever lived there. The only item left in that place was an old sword with a red hilt leaned with precision against the corner of the room. The eerie sight of the barren apartment stuck with Enoch. He hadn't thought it was possible for one woman to change the lives of others so profoundly, and yet the sight of that lone sword argued otherwise. Yeah, we got vigilantes. Enoch's lived a really interesting life. Like, to be able to say that, like, you've witnessed all these things that he's been through. I'm not sure, though, if the stories, like the dreams that are taking place, are, like, in the future after he leaves the Angelarium, or if it's his pilgrimage before. Like, this is, you know, like a philosophy that's rooted in Judaism, so it's possible that maybe he, like, a pilgrimage was referenced earlier, but it was other people's. It could be his own, though, which would explain why he's, like, in so many different places. I'm personally not sure. I think I would probably have to read the second book to find out. It's still interesting, though. I don't have any quabbles with it, though. Okay. Next story is Zachriel. the angel of memory. So let's throw that on up here. Zachriel, the angel of memory. Eternally wandering, Zachriel carelessly winds and unwinds the threads of thought. Its nature is as much about forgetting as it is about memory. Through its careful work, this angel weaves our experiences together, creating a tapestry that reveals the story we tell about ourselves. Very nice. And of course, there's an excerpt at the bottom, and then I'll catch up with chat. For he who holds the memory of man, for he whose arcane business is long forgotten, why should he bless you if you cannot even remember his face? He who holds the past upon his shoulders and the future in his hands. Of course, very profound, very, very related to memory. And then Zeb, you said, I think the fun part about this, or I guess not really fun, is that these things are situations in which we can find ourselves every day as ourselves. It feels so vast and intricate when put under the guise of one man walking through a strange land dealing with angels, but do we not run into our own angels? I absolutely agree, and I think that this is why the Tree of Life philosophy also fits into tarot so well, just to sort of like bring back that dead horse. The goal of the tarot, right, is to reflect things from everyday life occurrences that we should be able to consider and reconsider and interpret, right, in terms of how they affect our lives and how we react to them. So we can like do the inner work of knowing ourselves and our journey and the things that we're absorbing and learning about ourselves and how things affect us, right? The Tree of Life is like a very similar sort of teaching where you study the Sephiroth of like aspects of the human experience and the extremes that they can fall into. And the journey is to not just experience those, but to be aware of your experience of those things, of the balance of those things, and to try to bring them all into some sort of harmony. Because the humanity is not just the best parts of us, it's the worst parts of us tempered into something that we can use to our advantage. And also the experience of acquiring those traits too. Like it's the whole thing. It's not just the good or bad or the lessons. It's the full experience of going through that stuff. And we can find these concepts, like you were saying, literally in everyday life. Like maybe you haven't been to like a mysterious city where like a woman with a sword was like taking out vigilantes, right? But you may have been in a situation where something of yours got stolen or went missing, and like a good Samaritan, you know, like helped you out and helped to make the world a brighter place by putting some good back into it when you didn't have any faith about the location you were in or the people who were in it. Dang, I feel like I should beg forgiveness for my cards now. Have you been mean to your cards? Or are they mean to you? There is one more excerpt featuring this angel. So I'm going to bring up the relevant art. And then we'll get started. Oh, not mean to them, but they're definitely mean to me, and then I just sulk about it. Oh no. Don't sulk. They're being mean to help you. It's tough love. Okay, here we go. This excerpt is called Remembering and Forgetting. What I remember from my dreams within the tree still feels so vivid, but the pieces do not tie together. There were so many people I cared for, and yet I can hardly remember their faces. Enoch sat in a simple hut, taking inventory of himself, his book open on his lap, and writing quill in hand. When I think back on these dream lives, they feel as though they happened yesterday, but writing about them feels nearly impossible. Each one is like a half-remembered song, chanting a few incomplete melodic words in my mind over and over again. He sighed heavily, realizing he had accidentally invited these intrusive thoughts back in. The book Raziel gave me has stayed with me through these other lives, and while it's definitely written in my hand, it doesn't feel quite as though it's my own. I'm writing a journal, knowing that it might be the only connective tissue leading me back to the authorship of my own story. My limits as a man begin to show as my time in this place drags on. As though beckoned, the angel of memory itself joined Enoch. Its fingers wound through threads of thought, untangling them and then winding them back together. Enoch watched this nimble display with idle fascination. Zachariel, Enoch said aloud, suddenly recalling the angel's true name. He jotted down a note for himself before the thought escaped. That gives us a little bit in terms of like contextualizing the dreams. I like that they waited until we got to this point to do it. So we're kind of like forced to just take the raw meaning of the stories instead of focusing on why they're connected. And then sort of like in the middle, we get the angel of memory and we get a little more context about what's happening. I mean, they can be mean and more direct though. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes the cards are not as direct as they could be. Ooh, gorgeous art. And oh, that's clever. Yeah, I agree. Okay, the next emanation that we have up is Tiferet, the emanation of beauty. I am excited for you to see what the art looks like for this. So this is Tiferet. The sixth emanation. Tiferet is the temperate force that allows the power of the rest of the emanations to exist in beautiful harmony. As each of the other aspects rage within the tree, Tiferet neither yields nor resists. Forming the midpoint on the pillar of balance, Tiferet defines its essence. It's a careful balancing act, incorporating such extreme opposites, but that is the nature of the tree as a whole. Tiferet mirrors the structure of the tree, existing as a microcosm within the system. Ooh, that is so sad, but also true, but also dang. And there is, of course, an excerpt here, but this is a bigger one. It says here, Tiferet wears a crown comprised of the fingers from the many hands of Ein Sov, whose efforts goad existence from the dark. They scribble their will unto the face of Tiferet, forming the features and expression of creation. Tiferet knows love and justice from the great legs of Ein Sov, Chesed, and Gevra. Tiferet is intuitively present and steeped in wisdom by Kokma and Bina, knows glory and its cost by the balance of Netzah and Had. All that is unseen is the face of Tiferet. As the Sephiroth are, so too is Tiferet, a chorus of many, a song of the multitude, a dream with many dreamers. So many wills are sung unto this earth. So yeah, that's kind of like the description of the pillar of balance, basically. So we talked about like the tree of life. I'm gonna like pull it up again just to like give you the visual one more time. But so we're going through, you know, like the different nodes on like the tree of life here. So Tiferet is the one that is labeled number 6 that belongs to the kings, right? So in tarot, the kings represent the full manifestation and mastery of both the physical and like spiritual world. So like when you have balance between your inner self and your outer self, right? You're not being too extreme on either end. You're checking yourself, you're being accountable. And it's working out for you. That mastery is showing um, that you are able to keep yourself balanced, right? Dang, now this book low-key hurting my feelings. How dare it? I love it. Now, if you look at the tree, you can see that Tiferet, which would be number 6 here, actually is connected to all of the other nodes. Whether or not it's like just straight down diagonally, but they are all connected. So it's the first node in that balance, that neutral pillar there. You can, if you look at the bottom, you can see like that equal sign that represents the neutrality, right? So since it's connected to literally everything, it's supposed to be like that inner peace, right? That's basically what it's supposed to represent. Okay, this is the photo for the next section, which is the 6th dream, a moment at the center. Let me hydrate real quick. All right. A moment at the center. Here it is, the guide called out, catching Enoch off guard. Before Enoch could look up, the man had already hopped down from his horse's saddle. Where? How can you tell? Enoch packed his journal away and dismounted with a wince. Traveling through the desert had left Enoch sore and tired. His lips were chapped. His thighs were chafed after days of riding. The sacred place he sought was not easy to find. His confusion rose at the sight of empty sand all around them, rising in soft sloping dunes. Is this really the center point of the universe? The monotonous landscape laid a haze over his thoughts, unlike his guide, who seemed constantly refreshed by this desolate place. The endless rise and fall of dunes brought a crisp smile to the man's face every day. Even his horse strode a little taller than Enoch's. The guide looked at Enoch with a broader grin than normal, an open, spacious smile of gleeful expectation. Here, the guide stooped low and swept his hand back and forth through the sand, unearthing a wooden bar. See? Easy to find. A 5-day ride through the desert did not strike Enoch as easy. Yet, here he was. Enoch approached the guide to help him unbury their quarry. A doorway, perhaps? He eagerly pushed away handfuls of sand, revealing more bars of wood connected to the piece at the top. The guide grabbed the object and began to hoist it free. Enoch braced himself and pulled, his heart beating fast with anticipation. This mechanism must be blocking access to a chamber below. Aha! The guide exclaimed as a sturdy wooden chair rose from the ground. Here it is. Enoch's eyebrows shot up as his heart sank. Seeing Enoch's confusion, the guide patted the seat firmly. Here, sit. Growing angry, but too stunned to argue, Enoch took a seat. This was a joke. He was being taken advantage of. His dark thoughts were swept away by the sudden emergence of music in Enoch's mind. The joyous sound forced a smile upon his face. Seemingly appearing from within his own head, strange strings vibrated, and voices sang in a language he did not know. The guide flicked a heavy metal coin towards Enoch with a sharp twang. Caught off guard, Enoch barely caught it. He hadn't been expecting anything from the man. To remember, the guide said, tapping the side of his head with a smile. With his task complete, he remounted his horse and turned to ride back. Farewell. Alone now, Enoch sat in that distant place and listened until the music faded. His shoulders relaxed, his breathing slowed. The coin felt warm in his palm, his own heat filling it with life. It was time to go. Enoch had a long ride to return home. That is so interesting as a metaphor. I mean, but think about it though. Peace is like that inner sort of balance of everything is not like some sort of grand, like jaw dropping experience. Like peace is supposed to be calm and underwhelming. It's the lack of the extremes, right? So I feel like this story fits very well. I feel like people expect, like, so for example, people who are on their own, like inner journey to try to figure out themselves or, like gain that inner peace, they expect like that inner peace to solve every problem or to like drastically improve their lives. And I think that they forget that the point of that is to like improve you. Like you're the thing that's improving, and then the effects of that will ripple outward into how you treat other people. Like the guide, taking him to this place. Like it's supposed to be inner joy, right? And I really like the idea of that being represented by this short story. Okay, I feel like we are maybe like a little more than halfway through, perhaps. It is a bit late, however, I am determined to finish this, so feel free to stay for the ride. If you have to go to bed or if you drift off, no worries. I'm glad you were able to, chill with me and everything. And the VOD will be here. So, okay. The next angel here is Israfel, who is the angel of song, which makes perfect sense right after the emanation of beauty, I think. So let me pull that up. Israfel, angel of song. Israfel is the herald that will call the end of times. Its horn shall blow the final sound ever to be heard, and that horn sits close to its lips. Under the danger of total destruction sits a pathway to serenity. Beyond the destruction may be a new beginning. All songs come to an end, as do all silences. Very succinct. And then the excerpt under this one says, "The burning one, herald of the dawning day, summoner of the final hour." And there is a little short blurb. And this one has like a really gorgeous image, honestly. Boop. So this one says, it's called Fading Light. And it says, "Walking through a winding mountain path above the clouds, Enoch caught a glimpse of a distant figure hanging in the air. In the fading light, the polished black and gold of its body sunk deeply against the pale colors of the sky. What lonely angel joins us?" Enoch asked aloud. "Israfel, the burning one." Raziel's familiar voice replied, announcing its appearance. Enoch's stomach sank. Raziel's sudden presence brought with it a mixture of frustration and relief. The angel seemed eager to share information whenever possible, though it rarely possessed real answers. Standing in reverence, Enoch and Raziel looked upwards, tracing the long line of a golden horn. Israfel's lips were slightly parted, close to the mouth of the instrument, pushing Enoch forward in eager anticipation of the angel's dirge. Yet the sound never came. Israfel's body held fast in a taut, posed attention, exhibiting a patience Enoch could not stand to watch at length. His expectation boiled away, leaving a heavy dread in its place. Perhaps it was best not to hear the horns bellow. What would such an act herald? "It shall blow its horn to signal the end of days," Raziel interjected, seemingly reading Enoch's mind. Enoch turned to descend the mountain alone, not willing to question the mysterious angel as to the specifics of the end times. He knew the option was present. Raziel never showed himself unless there was something Enoch didn't want to know. Right? This is such a like vivid piece of art. It looks really good in the book too. The text is like the image is imposed like over both pages under the text. It's really nice. And then our next character here is an emanation. It is Netza, the emanation of endurance. And I think that you're gonna like this one. So we're just plowing through the next couple. I'll take another break when I have to refill on my tea. Alrighty. Netza, the emanation of endurance. The seventh emanation. Netza is the force that resists. Its nature is to oppose any force that acts on it without limit. In the face of adversity, this is what carries us forth through our darkest times. When we feel that we are beyond our limits and new strength emerges. Supporting the pillar of mercy, Netza supports the weight of the tree along with its partner, Had. This is the closest we get to the bottom of the tree before merging back to the middle. And of course, there is an excerpt here. Beautiful, but also, damn, I feel that, yes. And I mean, the tree of life makes sense, not just as a description for like the process of going through life, right? From like the human experience before conception, like us as the ideas of people, to us absorbing life lessons to become people. But it also makes sense in like a practical sort of picture. So like if you think of the tree as a diagram, it makes literal sense for endurance to be at the bottom of the tree, right? Like that would be one of the pillars of like human nature. If it wasn't a pillar, it wouldn't be literal endurance. Like it's one of the grounding sort of things. And just for knowledge sake, just before we get to it, Had, which is on the other side of the tree from endurance, is glory. So glory meaning like moments of triumph, the lightning in a bottle flashing moments, the sort of inspiration of innovation, kind of. So it makes sense that like as humans, we constantly are having ideas, we're absorbing information, we're coming up with things. That's definitely, I would say, one of the foundational elements of like the human spirit. So it makes sense to have that at the bottom of the pillar, sort of like supporting the human experience. Like part of what makes the tree really cool is that even though, you know, visually we're looking at it, and I mean, I'll bring it up once again, just so that there's visual for what I'm talking about. We start at the top, like before, or I guess like the crown. So the crown is like the moment before anything is made, right? But once we get to the bottom, we're going from like the top, which is spiritual, to the bottom, which is physical. And it's easy to think about things that way, from top to bottom. But our very human journey is often from bottom to top, right? We're very physical beings. We exist in this realm generally. And then we make our way up to understand and appreciate the spiritual. But what I like most about the tree is that some people are built different, right? So there are some people who are more spiritually inclined, and they have to get more in touch with like their actual humanity. Like obviously our lived in experiences are there regardless, right? But sometimes we can't grasp like what we're doing in like the physical life that we live. Like, why are things happening this way? How do I have this understanding of myself and yet things keep occurring in like this way I don't like or whatever? So the tree works both ways, which I think is very versatile and convenient depending on, like what kind of person you are. There's a way that works for everyone, really. And the positions and the order that you go in are less important than the journey to connect both ends of the tree. So it's sometimes it's just really good to appreciate like the ingenuity of the human spirit, you know what I mean? The fact that this idea and philosophy was refined over time, and the fact that people could actually step back and view the life experience of a human being in this way is like very profound, that people were able to come together and point these things out and say like, this makes sense. And for it to be a thing that actually makes sense and that is kind of timeless, it's really like breathtaking in a way. I think that even if you're not religious, the way that this is broken down is it's an abstract process that you can identify with no matter what your belief system is, because it's more about the journey of humanhood than it is about believing in like a higher power that's orchestrating it, which is like a very beautiful way to approach life philosophy. Again, I could go on forever. I'm not going to. Okay. I like it. I really appreciate it. There is an excerpt underneath here for Netza, and I'm going to go ahead and read it. It says, "Beneath this stone, I am glory. Tension and suffering push me down and bury my face in the muck. But even then, I am sweet fire, ablaze the torch, burning in the abstractions between agony and patience." And this is quoted to be a mantra. And I like the connection that it has to glory specifically, because the idea is, like once you endure, right? The point of enduring is so that you can come out your best self. Pressure turns coal into diamonds, that kind of thing. Okay. This next excerpt is called "The Seventh Dream." So there's a piece of artwork for that. Very smexy. I like the colors of this specifically. So this is called "Fire in the Pit." My muscles tear and burn. Enoch lay outstretched on a slab of stone, a boulder resting on his abdomen. His ragged breath sent tremors throughout his body. He inhaled slowly so that the rising of his chest did not tempt the stone to topple. My muscles tear and burn. Exhalation ripped through him once more, and the relief he felt was tempered with the weakening of flesh and bone. The weight of the boulder, a constant reminder of his life and how it teetered on the edge of oblivion. My muscles tear and burn. The sweat pooled beneath his shoulders, but offered no respite to his flesh and the terrible machinations of his work. Every wound ached and rended. Even the tears that streamed from his eyes incited pain. My muscles. Enoch wandered into the bramble of thorns of his mind as the sun began to set. Tear and burn. He remembered the beaches of his childhood, the water pressing itself gently against the shore, ebbing like a heartbeat. This memory did not soothe, but felt of sand grit chafing his skin, grinding the blood out of his body. Even his mind was not safe from this agony. My muscles. He let out each word, hissed through clenched teeth, his mantra broken, his spirit cracked and crazed. The sun began to set, and the failing light mirrored his constitution. As the final rays of light faded across his skin, the agony of his muscles overtook his will, ending the mantra prematurely. The moon crept its way into the corner of Enoch's eye. Longing thoughts of home followed the moon's slow arc through the sky as hours passed. Simpler times sitting by the fire, Edna looking back at him with the flames reflected in her dark eyes. a meal with friends, carrying his son upon his shoulders. As he teetered on the edge of madness, a vision formed of the moon's tireless path to eternally rise and set down beyond the mountains, forever rising even as it fell. Enoch wiped the tears from his face and steeled himself against the night. My muscles tear and burn. I am fire in the pit. I am glory beneath the sky. So that one's super interesting. Damn, I guess he fucked around. I'm not sure. I think because these are referred to as dreams, I considered it's possible that maybe the angels are and the emanations are sending him these dreams, maybe to like impart the lessons of who they are or what they represent, maybe like in a tangible way. I'm not 100% sure. It's hard to figure it out. This is very like obtuse, you know? At least in terms of like keeping track of the story, I mean. Okay, the next entry here is Hasmed. Indeed, he didn't fuck around, he was learning. Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's just my best guess. It's not like I know for sure. I'm just doing my best here, you know? Okay. I still have a little tea left, so we might make it through the next two things and then I'll refill. Okay. The next entity here is an angel. Hasmed, the angel of annihilation. How foreboding. Boop, that's Hasmed. Very hot, very fuckable, right? He looks like he gives good hugs. It looks like he gives good hugs. I feel like I've seen like on the website that it was referred to as a he, but like I think the in this book the pronouns are from people who like worship them, because there's a lot of excerpts from what seems to be like fictionalized like cultures and religions and things. Damn, okay, daddy, she's yeah, exactly. Look at the legs, look at them thighs though. 4 of those thighs to crush you. Death by snoo snoo, indeed. Indeed. Literally just crushing you. But anyway. Okay. Hasmed, angel of annihilation. A terrible sight to behold. Hasmed is the unmaker, the void that eats itself and makes itself anew. That which should no longer exist will be unmade so that it may be replaced. A brutal fire that clears a path for new growth. How nice. I'm not gonna lie, while I was reading that, it was Hasmed is the unmaker. Unmake me. Unmake me, please. Please. It would probably be great. Yeah, unmake me, daddy. Right, right. And of course, there's an excerpt here. So let me pull myself together so I can read it. In the Angelarium, Moses came upon the 5 angels of divine punishment. Among them was Hasmed, angel of annihilation. For all the forces of creation in the heavens and earth, there is but one undoer. To hear its voice is to know that you are deaf. To see its face is to know that you are blind. To feel its touch is to be no more. And this is a quote from Unknown. I am barking in real time. Let me put the image up here for you one more time. We've got a small excerpt from the called the Unmaker. So let's get this done so we can not be distracted by Annihilation Daddy, you know. Okay, here we go. The Unmaker. Enoch sat upon a cliffside, writing in his journal. The mountain in front of him slowly crumbled apart as he wrote. Great pieces of the stone cleaved from each other, ignored by the man with the book. The deep rumble of an avalanche thrummed in Enoch's ears as he wrote. The violence of this place drowned out the true terror that rested in his heart. A dark figure appeared to me, clothed in destruction, boiling from within. Its face was hidden behind a heavily armored helm. Layers of winding metal poured over its head, leaving its bearer no space to see or breathe. I didn't want to know its name, yet still it made itself known to me. A name I don't dare speak aloud or commit to paper. Even seeing it from a dream was closer than I would have ever wanted. The name rose through my mind over and over. It churns dark silt from the bottom of my insides as it gallops through my mind's eye. There may be a day when this thing comes forth, and it will be my fault. My family should never see that day. I must never let anyone know that I've witnessed this angel's existence. Raziel watched patiently from above, the paper of its wings rustling in the breeze. I know that generally I should be afraid, but I am not. We'll call it the folly of existence, you know, the hubris of simply existing. But I am not afraid. I would like more Annihilation Daddy. I bark. Oh, fear? I don't know her. I bark for real. Okay. So we have the next emanation, which is Hod, the emanation of submission. So here we go. Boop. The eighth emanation. Hod is the force that abides. When we relinquish ourselves to the flow of existence and let destiny guide our motion, we create unmatched momentum. It's only by resigning ourselves to the forces around us that we can become truly free. Supporting the pillar of severity, Hod simply lets the weight of the tree flow down like water into the lowest portion of the diagram. The opposing characteristics of Hod and Netza form the power to carry ourselves through the world with grace and intention. Ayo, wait. And then there's an excerpt at the bottom. This is said to be ramblings of a blind man. I'll just say that first. Hod's glory veils even the sun. It is said in some parts the sun's rays only shine on the space left behind by Hod's radiance, existing only in deference. Splendor submits to Hod, and beauty fails before Hod. The sky withers and retracts, and all that can remain without Hod languishes in mediocrity. Yes, Hod is greatness, but the price of knowing such brilliance is the sundering of one's own self. Why should we bother to know our own visage, or even to look at the sun, while we choose to remain so ignorant of what Hod is? It is all darkness by comparison. I don't know if I'd call that rambling. I feel like, I guess that's rambling, but I felt it though. I see it. I'm into it. Not me being low-key outed, and for what? I feel like your cards conspired this reading session. Okay. Give me 1 second. I am going to take another small break to grab some more tea. My tea is cold. I have a little left, but I feel like we've read enough. Real shit fucking your bias behavior. I mean, is it not true? Is that not true? Again, just to reiterate what was said before, you know, the submission and endurance, right? The whole point is glory, right? So these would be like in terms of the tree of life. So like leading to those would probably be like, and I mean I'm not exactly looking at the tree right now. I probably should. Actually, let me go ahead and do that. Yes. So related to Had would definitely be like, you know, death, right? The tower. And probably, yeah, it says here the star, right? So this is like the point of the submission is to gain knowledge and be on the right track, right? So that's the goal here. It's submission for the purpose of becoming better, like we said earlier. It really didn't have to say it like that though. But okay, I'm gonna go real quick and get more tea, and then I will be right back, and then we'll finish up. Hopefully the last, we got like maybe a third left. We're actually traveling through this pretty fast. It's only been 2.5 hours, so we're doing pretty good. I shall return. And I'm back. Okay. We are moving on to the short story that follows Had. So there is a second image here. Let's get to it. And this excerpt is called The Eighth Dream, Lost in Glare. The ship had been out to sea for 2 months. The crew was accustomed to these journeys, but Enoch's fortitude for the cramped quarters had waned. Lately, I've begun to hear things. A voice late in the evening, Enoch scribbled into his journal, relinquishing his penmanship to the sway of the ship. I think I'm going mad. He sighed deeply into his shirt sleeve, filtering out the stench of the boat's contents. He raised the covers over his head despite the oppressive heat and tried to sleep. The sounds of the ship stirred thoughts and visions in his mind until he was carried off to sweet oblivion. As Enoch woke in the darkness, a crash resounded in his skull. The thumping of hurried feet on the deck raced across the inside of his forehead. With eyes still unfocused, Enoch lifted himself from the hammock to the sound of wild shouting. Above, a man in rags screamed and begged. "Avert your eyes," the wild man bellowed. "Do not look upon my visage." Enoch pushed his head above deck just in time to see the captain working with a rope. The old man's ramblings reached an awful pitch, his eyes fixed on the cord as it took the shape of a noose. Not begging to be spared, he instead begged for an audience. "Listen, too many torches are lit this night," he raved wildly. "Too much glory in our eyes. How are we to find our way home?" The words crushed by the din of waves and winds. Enoch could make out little of what was being said, save for a name. Edna. A pang of recognition shot through his mind, remembering a long-forgotten dream. "Captain, no! Wait, please!" Enoch scrambled over to the man, tripping over his disheveled robes. He fell to his knees just before the man, whose wild eyes were still focused on the noose. "Enoch, still yourself. You are a guest aboard my ship. Mere cargo I have allowed passage because payment has been made. This wretch has no such privilege." The captain drew the noose taut between his hands with a snap. Panting, Enoch forced out the words. "Just a moment, Captain, please. Sir, what was that name?" His fingers flexed instinctively as he searched for a pen he did not have. "Sir, what about Edna? Please, I must know." The words hung in the night air. The singular moment stretched thin as the captain's patience was stamped out with a booted step in their direction. Before being snuffed out, the ragged man smiled and drew near. Gently, he whispered into Enoch's ear, "Let go." Damn. That's messed up. Dang. Boop. That's really sucky. So it seems like in these dreams he doesn't, remember his previous life before being whisked away, coming to the Angelarium. So that's interesting. Our next angel here is Remiel, Angel of Visions. I like how this directly relates to what we just read. It's just really well put together. So I'm gonna warn you right now, Remiel is one of my favorite angels from this collection of images. I am such a big fan of Remiel's art. Oh my god. Oh my god. I cannot explain to you. I love him. So here we go. Shalakard, yo, how are you? What was well put together? This story. So we've been reading the Angelarium book that I was talking about before in your stream. I mentioned this in Shalakard's stream just yesterday. I decided that I was going to do another reading stream, and it just made sense to do this one since we had just talked about it. Oh, this book is great. Need book, yes. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the today command just to reshare the information about the author if you're interested. All of the art that I am sharing and looking at, and the text also as well, to be honest, is on his website. He's got like a little web page that's an encyclopedia. There are short stories in here that are not on the website. However, if you are interested in knowing what the angels and emanations and watchers from the second book look like, Please like and follow, this author. Go to his website. It's pretty dope. This book is very well put together and fascinating, and now I want to talk about it forever. I got you, Zeb. I got you. We'll have some discussions off stream about it. I figured that this book would be up your alley for sure. It's kind of a hard book to find audience for, I think. So on one level, I think that it's enjoyable if you just like pretty art and you just want to enjoy the overall concept of things. It's a nice book to listen to. I think that it's fairly easy to grasp, like, the surface stuff. And I'm not going to say that this is like too dense. I don't think that like people are too dumb to get in or anything prestigious like that. But I do think it takes like a little work in digging. Like you have to want to understand what's in here. So you can engage with it on the surface or you can choose not to. And I like stories that are layered like that. Like you don't have to. If the day is too heavy and you just don't want to brain, you don't have to. But if you want to brain, you absolutely can. And I think that that's the good thing about the book. All right, but can those angels beat the biblically correct angels? These are based on the biblically correct angels, just extrapolated a little bit. So, I mean, I think it's less about what they look like and more what they can do. And honestly, since these represent like facets of the human experience, it depends on what biblically correct angels we're talking about, because there are versions of them where they can do anything, depending on like the Bible, or like if we're talking the Apocrypha and other side stories of the Bible. But if we're talking just raw Bible, like they are servants of the Lord, they cannot act outside of what the Lord tells them, then these could probably beat them. It depends on what philosophy we're looking at it from, the lens, so to speak. In certain religions, angels can do everything, and in certain religions, they can't do anything. So it depends. As a Cthulhu mythos enjoyer, these are too solid to be eldritch abominations, too solid and too rigid, too many angles. I agree with you there. I feel like Cthulhu mythos creatures are more like they just are, and they affect the world. They're not structured quite as much. Like people do worship them from a specific perspective, but that's meaning that like people put on them, not like what they actually are. Like the Cthulhu mythos is basically like the entities. I wouldn't even call them gods. I feel like gods is labeling what other people think of them. They just exist to consume in the manner in which they are able, right? They don't have like a grand overarching purpose. There's just the ripples of the effects of their existence and how living beings interpret them. But these are emanations, and just basically what that means is they specifically represent, like these angels and emanations represent paths of life and life experiences that we have. So they're definitely more solid. These angels are definitely like on the side of humanity, I would say. Whereas the Cthulhu mythos creatures don't have a side. They just exist. It's funny that all those powerful beings have nothing better to do but basically be a bother to Earth. That's kind of not true though. Like, dudes, there are a bajillion stars, go somewhere else. But you're assuming that they don't go somewhere else. Yeah, exactly. None of them are being a bother. We just happen to be here. Yeah. If you look at the lore, they are actually not bothering us. They just happen to pop up wherever they pop up and we're in the way. Yeah, you don't really think about a speck of dirt when you step on it. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. To say that they're bothering us means that they're doing it on purpose, and they are not. Like, we literally do not register to them, except when by some miracle or hard work or madness or a combination of those three, we manage to do something that allows us to communicate with them in some primitive sort of way. You don't, but for some reason, Earth lives rent-free on their mind. No. That's not how it works. A lot of stories are centered with them interacting with Earth because the people who write those stories are humans, and humans are self-centered and write things about Earth. No one's gonna write about Cthulhu messing with another planet. I mean, like, there are like people who play like Call of Cthulhu who might write that, but I mean, like, in terms of your average person, It's only human centric because humans are human centric. That's all. That doesn't actually mean that Earth actually lives rent free on their mind though. But it is a funny idea. I do think that like if you've ever played, let me take this off real quick because I'm not reading. If you've ever played Sucker for Love, right? Which had like the Cthulhu level creatures. Is it Shadow of Innsmouth? I thought it was Shadow of Innsmouth. I read it a long time ago though. Yeah, the Shadow over Innsmouth. I have. If you've played Sucker for Love, for example, that is actually an example of like Cthulhu type entity, Eldritch type entities, basically becoming obsessed with a human, which I think is an interesting concept. Like, what if they could perceive us and we could affect them? That's very interesting, you know. Yeah. It's a nice story. I think that H.P. Lovecraft is a very good writer. But it's not for everyone. I think, you know, some people will be bored by it, you know. But I think that it's good. I have read many Cthulhu Mythos things many times. They're all good, but that one isn't necessarily my favorite. Yeah, it's not my favorite either. But it is the most popular one. But I am, in fact, a weirdo, so. You're not a weirdo. You're just an Eldritch nerd. That's all. Shalakar, you picked the right one today. Zeb is like the person to talk to about Eldritch things. But okay, before I ramble on for too long, let's get to Remiel, Angel of Visions. Boop. This is the art that is on the page. You can find it on the website listed above. Remiel is the shepherd of good graces, an angel that shines a light in the distance, calling us forward into the future. The greener pastures beyond the next hill can be hard to see, which is why Remiel brings reassurances that life will get better. It stands tall so that through its sight, we can see far enough to keep forward towards the horizon. Oh, right, sorry, I just changed the subject. It's okay. I love them specifically. They look comfy. Yes, they do. Look at the robes. Just one more time before we go to the other art. Look at the robes. It looks like it's just saying, chill, my guy. It's gonna be okay. Also, the moon covering the face. Chef's kiss. Mwah. Okay, there is a little blurb at the bottom of this, so let me go ahead and read this. Footsteps fall upon boundless hills, stretching one by one across the landscape. Our journey. See not the darkened slopes that present themselves today. There is light upon the farther side, guiding us onward. Oh, let's see. So these angels come from where? Actually, Enoch is in the Angelarium, and he is chronicling the emanations. To put it simply, Zeb's Detroit, where all things start. Oh God. He's chronicling all the emanations and the angels that he can see into a journal. And there's also some dream things happening where he has visions of a sort of situations that he's been in either in the past or the future. We're not quite sure yet. Okay. So there is a short story to go along with this angel. So basically the format of this book is we get either an angel or an emanation, and then we get like a short story or a dream, quote unquote, is what they're called, involving Enoch having an encounter with them or an encounter with the concept that they're supposed to represent. So this little excerpt is called Crossing a Stream. Enoch stopped to sip water from a mountain stream. The chill of the water coiled around his fingers as he scooped it up. The shock of it ran through his body. Makes you feel alive, Enoch uttered to himself in monotone. An odd feeling to have in a place where life didn't seem to have a beginning or an end. Oh, whoops, I forgot about the image. There we go, boop. Staring upstream, Enoch saw it wind its way up to some unseen, mysterious source. In the realm of angels, it was unclear how anything really worked. The concept of a cool mountain stream was intact, but a reality where the river was fed by melting snows on top of a mountain seemed just as likely as any other story. In truth, there could be some huge stone face that wept endlessly upon the ground, and the river was a reflection of its ceaseless lament. Perhaps the river ran in a circle upon a ground that sloped downward forever, in an impossible loop. It was hard to know without inspecting it, an investment Enoch was not willing to make. There was a larger story he knew he only saw a piece of. Enoch forded the river, hiking up the hem of his robes to keep them dry. Its water was clear and cold. It came from somewhere and went somewhere, as did he. This moment here was not the beginning or end of anything, a passing bit of turbulence in a larger story. Enoch watched the sun rise over the valley as a row of pillars became visible in the distance. Their ordered stance suggested another path to follow. Perhaps they led to some unseen structure beyond the horizon. Yet another hope of finding a path forward. So that was the excerpt about Remiel. So obviously the point was just, he's been lost and sort of fumbling, but he finally reached a place where nothing dramatic was happening and he can actually just move forward, which I'm sure he's excited about because he's been having a time. Enoch has been having a time. Right? So cute, so comfy. Yes, exactly. The description specifically said that Remiel's visions are supposed to give people hope so that they can keep pushing. So I feel like that excerpt fit the trope there. Okay. Next up is another emanation, not an angel. It is Yesod, the emanation of the foundation. So we're near the bottom of the Sephiroth. So just to explain real quick, Shalakard, basically all of these emanations, not the angels, but the emanations specifically, represent the tree of life and the path that we take. So I'm just gonna flash it on the screen real quick. We've basically been traveling from the top of before creation to the journey of different aspects of humanity. And now we're near the bottom. We're at that orange circle that's marked number 9, which is Yesod. So basically, these are a big metaphor for life, pretty much. To put it in the most simple way possible. On the website, they're a little more specific about Yesod. Yesod is the foundation of life, specifically, which I think is important to note. So here we go. Also, fun fact, apparently there is a band called Fallujah who used this for their album covers. So may be familiar, it depends on what you listen to. But here we go, this is Yesod. Emanation of the foundation. The 9th emanation. As waves need water, the tree of life needs Yesod. Through this medium, we can experience the tree of life. We stand at this doorway and peer through, seeking answers to our nature. Merging back into a single column, the flow of energy through the tree only moves downward from this point on. Yesod is the last stop before moving into the fully physical realm. So yeah, as you can see from these descriptions, we're talking about these cool art pieces that represent different stages of life, different stages on the tree of life, that kind of thing. So we started from the top and moved down to the bottom. And before I move on to the short story associated with Yasad, there is an excerpt here at the bottom that's cited as being from a creation myth. It says, "Light dances atop the earth. Where it touches, cinder-soft turf is upturned and exposes this planet to the Sephiroth. At midnight, a precious conversation takes place between Malkuth and Yasad under the gaze of a hooded moon. And we are the words. Our story continues to scrawl itself across the world forever." And I'm not gonna lie, I think that that's very romantic. A conversation takes place between Malkuth and Yasad, and we are the words. Like, that is the idea that, like, human existence are the words that are discussed between, like, the Foundation and Malkuth, which is the kingdom that represents, like, stability, right? I think in this book specifically, Malkuth represents the kingdom as well. So the idea is that, but the conversation between the Foundation and, like, physical existence, we are the things that they talk about, right? Like, we're the topic that they bring into existence by, like, naming and describing it. Yeah, I was just about to say that so specifically tender. Yeah, I misheard that so bad. I heard a hooded moose. No. A hooded moon. Okay, so here we go. We've got the ninth dream, and there is a piece of artwork to go along with that too. So here we go. That is the artwork. And we're just gonna dive right in. The ninth dream, Song of the Choir. The sun was setting over grassy hilltops, and the dying light streaked along the basin where a village was nestled in the ancient loam. The villagers were farming folk. Their toiling was perpetual, even after sundown. The evening brought these people alive. "Have you come to see the moon?" one of the children asked Enoch. "It sings to us tonight. Mama and Papa will come sing too." Along the border, the villagers placed sheets of polished stone in the soil. Mirrors were placed around their homes and through the common areas. Each was positioned carefully, though the pattern was unclear to Enoch. From his vantage point, they appeared as shallow pools of water reflecting the waning daylight. Enoch took note of what he saw, capturing as much detail as he could in ink before the illumination faded. "Come with me." The child beckoned Enoch to follow them into a growing gathering. With the sunset, the moon had finally approached its zenith. The glowing orb, full and adorned with glittering stars, hung above the crowd. The sound of shuffling feet filled the deepening shadows. Whispers of anticipation grew louder. "Come, Mama and Papa are singing soon." Enoch hadn't seen the child's parents since his visit, so he didn't know where to look. He followed as best he could, pushing towards the clearing at the center of the crowd, a focal point where the light gathered from the mirrors reflected the glory of the moon passing overhead. Each mirror placed at a precise angle to amplify the moonlight. Enoch held his hand in front of him to shield the brightness as he approached, and in the light he could see his skin shimmer. Finding his way to the center, the moonlight washed over his entire body, and the melody began. The mirrors vibrated from the light, resonating with humming tones that built upon one another. Their song was a breathless choir. The brilliance of the sound filled Enoch's chest and reverberated through his whole body, dizzying him. Squinting through the light, he saw the child he was following rushing out across the central array of glowing stones. They joined the other children there, standing in the center of the gathering, their arms stretching upward towards the night sky, their fingers grasping towards something in the air. As the singing faded, the cry of a baby called out. As the light dimmed, Enoch saw it, a baby boy glittering softly in the afterglow. It rested its weight on the fingertips of the children at the center of the ritual, taking its first breath. So that, I feel like, was super thick with metaphors. That's a lot. Let's see. So are they writing the stories or referring to them or seeing it live 4K or remembering them or see it? In a word, yes. Yep, he's experiencing them and writing them and remembering them all at once, and we're not sure in which order. Yeah. This is like some deep philosophical thing. It's basically yes all at once. And he's not sure what order it's in, so we're not sure what order it's in. Basically, in the beginning, I believe the angel that appeared to him specifically was... It was not Asriel. Hang on. I know I can remember. Actually, you know what? Let me just look. I think it's Raziel. Yeah, it's Raziel. So the angel that actually appeared to him was Raziel, the angel of mysteries, and basically gave him a blank book and was like, you have a lot to learn. So we've put together that he's learning by having the experiences and by writing things in the book, but he's also reliving some memories also as well, because I think the time that he spent in the Angelarium has messed with his head a bit. We're not sure if he's remembering things that have happened to him or if the emanations are pushing memories to him to sort of like teach him the lessons that he's supposed to be learning. It could be either one. We've had a memory where he was remembering his wife's name, but he doesn't really know her. So it's just sort of like a jumbled clusterfuck of experiences, honestly. Okay, next, things are about to get interesting, I tell ya, because we are about to meet the Angel of Death. I hope you're ready. All right, let me pull up the image so we can enjoy the visage of death. Death and unmaking are different. I want to point that out. Death and unmaking are different. Raziel, damn, you just made me remember a Legacy of Cain. I am prepared to bark. Okay, we'll see. We'll see how much barking you do. There we go. Oh my god, all those hands. Look at all those hands. I am barking in real time. Obviously, I need a bark emote. So many hands to hold. I'm not sure if you want to touch those. I don't know if you want to touch those hands. I think you might die. Oh, there are eyes in those hands. Oh, never mind. I might die to touch the eyes. Oh, no. Yeah, I think it looks amazing. All of the angels have their own style, which is really cool, honestly. I wish to touch them respectfully. Yes, I feel like it's hard to say disrespectfully to this image. I would like to also touch them respectfully. Okay, here we go. Asriel, the Angel of Death. Asriel was the assistant to man's creation and the architect of the human body. This angel stands alone on the shores of mortality, helping to remove the souls from the bodies of the dying. Despite the fear it instills so naturally, it is a kind angel, though its presence demands the utmost respect. It is a practitioner of the highest order. And of course, there is an excerpt at the bottom, which says that this is the final teaching of Avajana, the Enoch. And it says, "Strip from me the garments of my thoughts, my friendships, my name, and what then remains? Do not mourn what never was. Death is fallacy." Which is crazy. Philosophically, that's saying a lot. strip from me my thoughts, my friendships, my name, and then what remains. Like, what are we, without the experiences that we have, right? Like, people fear death because they're alive, but I think what they're presenting here is the idea that, like, death is fallacy. Dude is trying to start the movie Mean Girls. I feel like the point here is, like, that we're nothing without those experiences, and yet we still exist outside of them. Like, we're still... It's almost like the concept that we're borrowing time for our existence to have these experiences. You know what I mean? Like, we're borrowing from the universe to have these experiences, but if we all belong to the collective and are made from the same source, then we technically don't exist in a way. It's definitely very philosophy. Imagine death just going, oh, okay, hold my robe. The idea of this angel saying, hold my robe, when he has 6 hands is kind of crazy. 7 hands? How many hands are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hands. 7 hands. An uneven amount of hands. That's interesting. Yeah, it's 7, yeah. Okay, now we have this artwork from the short story excerpt that is here. I shall ask for another hand. I need to up my game. Yeah, that's fair. This excerpt is called Carving the Mark. Enoch heard the rush of sound, but failed to see the wave that devoured his body whole. He kicked against the water as he spun, but his limbs found no adversary. There should be no reason for him to panic. After all, he had been standing but waist high in the surf only moments ago. Trying to relax, he stretched his feet down to find footing. The feeling of soft sand and rocks brought with them a moment of security as he raised himself upright and opened his eyes. Looking in amazement, he saw the surface hanging high above his head. He floated naked, staring at the peculiar sight before the panic took hold. "There you are," a voice from under the water called out. Through the churning water, the hand of a stranger reached out to save Enoch. It pulled hard. He braced for release, but none came. The faster he ascended, the deeper the water seemed to become. The shock of his body slamming into the darkened ocean floor pulled the breath from his lungs, replacing it with burning salt water. Every inch of his body struggled against the forces that drowned him, but more hands grabbed his arms, legs, and head. Was this phantasm a construct of his mind, or was this really happening? There was no time to think before new horrors began. A piercing pain struck the back of his neck like a white-hot needle being dragged along his skin. The pain pushed the shock all the way through his fingers and toes as the carving expanded upon his flesh. Unable to control his body, he sucked in more salt water. There was no life before this pain, only the bare hope that it would end. As he receded from consciousness, his last thought was a prayer for death. Enoch's eyes bulged as his lungs gasped at sandy air. He found himself lying upon a grim strand of alien shoreline. Down the path of waves, a tall figure in tattered black robes stood watching him. Its weathered eyes peered stonily from beneath the shadows of its hood. "It's good to see you again," the angel said, smiling. Its voice was pleasant and familiar. Lacking the strength to do anything else, Enoch's body heaved and he retched salt water. It flowed from him in a rancid wave, burning as badly on the way out as it had on the way in. Bit by bit, the hurting drained from him, and the guilt of surviving filled his heart in its place. Death cocked its head, inspecting his work. A simple sigil was carved into Enoch's skin where his spine met his shoulders. The art in this book is so fucking pretty. I want it. Yes, yes, please. I actually recommend. I love this because it is both, not sponsored stream or anything, but I love this because it's good story for thought. It's good inspiration because of the flowery language that's in it, but also you can straight up just open it up to look at the art. I love art books. Art books are amazing. I like there's nothing else to add. Point blank period. Art books are great. We are close to the end now, and we're at 3 hours, which is pretty good. I think that's pretty good. We've only got maybe 2 things left. 3? Maybe 3. Okay. Yeah, congrats on 3 hours. Thank you. So next is Malkuth, Emanation of the Kingdom, who was mentioned with our last one, emanation, Yasad. So let me pull up the photos. Malkuth looks pretty sexy, I'm not gonna lie. I want to note that I'm only showing off the art that is actually physically in this book, because it is on the website. There are additional art pieces that are on the website that I think you would enjoy. So I highly recommend hitting that today, !today command, going to the website and looking through, because these art pieces are actually banger. Peter also has a Discord where he discusses things. He's got a Patreon. He's got a bunch of stuff. Let's see. Alrighty, here we go. This is Malkuth, Emanation of the Kingdom. The 10th and final emanation. Malkuth is the physical experience of the world, the manifestation of everything we can touch and everything out of reach. Known as the emanation of emanations, it is our bodies themselves and all the experiences that we have in them. Below the reach of the tree, Malkuth is the ground that stretches outward, forming a base. She contrasts clearly with Keter, whose existence is marked by its total unknowability. As with all things in the tree, one mirrors the other, forming a complete continuum through which we understand the boundaries of existence. So that is Malkuth. There is an excerpt, of course. Hang on. Is that a gumball machine globe? It isn't, but it could be. Ooh, it's so sad, but great, but also just wow. Literally goated artist, yes. Agreed. The excerpt here at the bottom says, "There is a mighty tree, and at the root of it, there is a kingdom. So much light emanates from beyond the leaves above it. We live in the shadows of those leaves, and that is how we know Malkuth." It's a quote by Unknown. So the idea, obviously, is that humanity is the shadow of all of the concepts that make up the human experience, right? We are in no way pure forms of mercy or endurance or submission or knowledge or wisdom, right? We get the remnants of those things through our physical experience and then try to make sense of them through there. The tree of life is the pure existence of those things, which we can't really touch from where we are. But the idea is to try to go on that, spiritual journey to come as close to those things as possible. Alrighty. Now we have the 10th dream, called the Old Kingdom. Here we go. Enoch walked in a garden so large and so dense, its inhabitants knew no horizon. The whole wide world was this garden. At the center of it was a tree made of light. The leaves in the garden rustled above him. Who else walks with me? Taking caution, he placed his foot upon a felled tree. A satchel hung precariously over his shoulder, and his gathered robes threatened to trip him. His feet balancing atop the log, Enoch's eyes turned to the sky. I've taken the first steps today. His eyes closed as the wind rushed about him, making merry rhythms of strewn leaves and creaking branches that snaked through the sky without end. Through the cacophony of nature, Enoch heard music in the distance. He scanned the forest, his ears straining to find the sound. The words formed a lonely, keening song in the distance. Enoch leaped from the log, his foot managing to catch the side of his satchel, spilling its contents onto the grass. Stumbling to the soft earth, he recovered his possessions, a journal wrapped in worn leather, a heavy coin, and assorted writing tools. The music in the distance thinned in a rush of wind, warning Enoch that he might lose it. Recovering, he made his way into the wood. In the distance, the light of a setting sun poked through the limbs and leaves of the forest. The branches and rays of light reached out, welcoming him. His passage was not as obstructed as he expected. His every stride was embraced by the woods around him. He pushed free from the limbs and leaves as he arrived at a rough slab of metal jutting upwards from the earth in a small clearing. The song was clearer now, softly emanating from this foreign object. Curious, Enoch walked around the metal slab. He ran his hand along the jagged surface until its shape cleaved away into a flat edge. The elongated boulder seemed to be cracked in half, leaving one side perfectly smooth. Upon that surface, Enoch saw himself reflected. Shocked at this sudden confrontation with his appearance, he untied the knot on his head and let his hair loose. It ran down his shoulders as he stared wide-eyed at the white-haired old man in the mirror. How old had he been when Azrael brought him here? He felt like a man at the time, but now it was hard to imagine anyone who had lived only 26 years to be much more than a child. Enoch regarded his hands like he might be a stranger, searching for hints of remembrance in the scars upon his skin. A record of his time alive, the story of a man he knew well. Oof, he's got white hair now. He's lived like a million lives here in the Angelarium, which makes sense. Ooh, he did it. Yeah. He did it. He done lived. Yes. So we're at the last couple pieces. Oh, nope, just one more. All right, so here we go. The last piece of art is the gateway of Sabbatical. For those of you who weren't here earlier, Sabbatical is Angel of the Sky. So supposedly this is like the gate of heaven, basically. The gate of heaven or the Angelarium, one of those. So here is the image for y'all. I'm gonna zoom in just a bit. Yeah. So this is the gateway, and it's subtitled A Vision of the Watchers. This is the very last, it is a gate. It's a door. But yeah, it looks cool. Enoch thumbed through the book of Raziel, now complete. The chronicles of his dreams within the tree of life captured within it. His task complete, there was little left to do besides locate the mysterious angel. Considering its ever-present nature, he was surprised not to see it around. Raziel, where are you? Enoch called into the void. Wandering, Enoch looked out over the landscape from a cliff's edge. Across a chasm, the clouds cleared, revealing a massive arch that broke through the sky. Beyond it, a vision of the earth below was visible. His other life. Had his family grown old as well? He sighed. His heart reached out to them through the vision of the ark. Idna chased after their son as he ran wild, waving a stick with his tiny fist. His family was there, just as he'd left him. The vision expanded, and Enoch saw a tall, pale figure scoop up the child and return him to his mother. Edna looked up at the stranger with a smile. He was dressed in a dark costume crafted of leather and metal. The wings of a falcon extended from his back in long, elegant arches. "What's going on?" Enoch asked, stunned. The vision expanded, and he could see his once familiar home had changed. Hundreds of angels mingled with the men and women he once knew. A sudden terror rose in him, and he was unable to stay with the vision. Raziel stood in front of him, back turned, blocking the scene of the gate, silently watching, but offering no insight. After a long pause, Enoch finally broke the silence. "What am I doing here?" Raziel turned to him. "That's up to you." This was devastating. I stand here alone, bearing witness to wonders without end, but without purpose? Enoch wanted to leave the Angelarium even before he knew these outsiders were invading his community. "While I waste away, your kind is putting down roots in my world. Why?" "There is no why," Raziel retorted. "The Watchers chose to go to Earth because they wanted to." "Then I want to go too," Enoch said, hurried. "You can't," Raziel replied, tapping the back of his neck meaningfully. Enoch felt the same spot on himself, delicately probing the sign of the seraphim with his fingertips. The raised flesh from the wound held power he still didn't understand. A spark of remembrance came to him, and he thought of it. "If you can't help me, I'll go meet with someone who can." Enoch gathered his books and belongings and marched towards the cathedral by the shoreline. So, unfortunately, a very, very sad cliffhanger. Enoch wants to go home, but he's marked by the Angel of Death, so he can't. Boo. Yeah. Sorry, Zeb. There's no more? No. There's a second book, so this was a fitting cliffhanger, I think. So much for fallacy of death. To be fair, that was like a priestess saying that, so that was definitely their understanding of death and not necessarily like a true understanding of it per se. Oh, right, the second book. Yes, there is a second book. So that was Angelarium, Book of Emanations by Peter Moorbacher. I hope that you enjoyed. What did you think? What did you think of the book? Shalakard, I know that you came in late and that you missed some. You might have to go back to the VOD if you're interested. But Zeb, what did you think? Amazing book. I have feelings. Yes, I love it. I thought it was really nice. I mean, I enjoy esoteric stuff like this, so this is just like it for me, you know. Let's see. I didn't understand it much because my confusion came from what they were doing. Yeah, I feel like this is a very like metaphor heavy sort of book. What they're doing is a little less important than the meaning of what they're doing. And the meaning of what they're doing is experiencing the pillars of human experience. But it was cool nonetheless. Yeah, I think that that's what's cool about the book. Even if it's a little hard to grasp, or you came in the middle, so you missed a lot also as well. it's still cool art, it's still cool ideas, and I think that that's the most important thing. You can enjoy it from like a surface level kind of thing, you can enjoy it digging deeper as well. So that's nice. Yeah, which in and of itself, yeah, the message is that Enoch hasn't, yeah, which in and of itself is the message that Enoch hasn't learned yet, yeah. And that's why there's a second book, which is so cool. Learnings for nerds. Yeah, we're all nerds here. We're definitely nerds here. We're nerds. We're nerds learning over here. So, I'm glad that Zeb, that you enjoyed nerding out with me, enjoying the book. I may make the next reading the second book just to cut the suspense. We'll see. I think a lot of people enjoyed the Wanderer's Library short story, so maybe I'll do one of those in between, and then we'll go to the second book and see how that goes. I haven't looked at the second book yet at all, so it'll be all new to me. The art also will be new to me. I haven't gone to the website and spoiled it for myself yet. Yeah, I'm down too. Let's hear the next book. Cool. I'm thinking, so I wanted to get this reading done this week because my weekend, surprisingly enough, I am actually going to a convention that's themed on the Tree of Life this weekend, so I won't be available for streaming. So I wanted to make sure that we get some reading out of the way. I'm probably going to stream, tomorrow's Tuesday, so I'll probably stream Wednesday with some season Letter to the Future to get that out of the way for this week too. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, people like, you know, give lectures on different spiritual stuff, and it's nice. It's nice. I went once with a friend a couple years ago just on a whim, and I liked it so much I wanted to go again this year. I am very excited. I will report back and tell you guys all about it. So I'm just trying to do all the things. There's so much to do. I have keyboards to build. I have things to read. I have games to play. There's not enough time in a day. There's not enough hours in a week. And I've been putting in overtime on Breath of the Wild as well, like off stream. Oh, what are you gonna play? The game that we're playing is called Season: A Letter to the Future. No, not Breath of the Wild yet. I still don't have the capture card yet. It's honestly, so the premise of the game is a person found out that basically the world is ending. There's been like a prophecy. There's an ending of the age that they're living in. And so they decided to venture out from their mountain town to see the rest of the world because they've never seen it. And they want to basically do like a time capsule scrapbook of all the different cultures and people so that someone can remember them. Yeah. It's basically a scrapbook simulator, but there's a lot of cool visual storytelling. Not a whole lot of danger, not like, it's not like a fighting sort of game. You're not like, there's no bosses or anything like that. You're just learning more about the world through visual storytelling, and it's really nice. It's a very cozy, you know, it's raining outside, let's cuddle in kind of game. It's nice. So I'll be playing that. I don't think I'll have enough time to squeeze in. I don't think I'll have enough time to squeeze in another keyboard build, unfortunately, as much as I want to. So that'll have to wait for next week. But those are my plans. So I'll probably put a little post-it note on my Twitter for Wednesday, playing Season to the Future, Letter to the Future, and we'll do that. Those are my plans. Okay. Normally I would stay around and try to chat a little more. However, in my time zone, it is like 5:30 a.m. So we finished the book. We did it all in one go. I'm very proud of myself, and I'm proud of you guys for staying through. If you were lurking, if you've fallen asleep and you're listening or watching this VOD later, thank you for sticking around, for coming back, for giving me your time, whether it's now or in the future. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and end it here so that I can pretend to go get some sleep before work. I hope that you enjoyed the reading. I hope you come back for more reading. And I will talk to you guys later. As always, have a good night. Yes, you have a good night too. I hope you all sleep well. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, no matter where you are. Please, please, please remember that you are special and take care of yourself, okay? Mwah. Bye. Oh, you are so welcome for me sharing this book. You are so welcome. All right. Have a good evening, afternoon, or morning, whichever one applies. Talk to you later.